Good morning and welcome to the New York City Council hearing of the Committee on Parks and Recreation. At this time, can everyone please silence your cell phones? If you wish to testify, please come up to the sergeant's desk to fill out a testimony slip. Written testimony can be emailed to testimony@council.nyc.gov. Again, that is testimony@council.nyc.gov. At this point and going forward, please, no one is to approach the dais. Thank you for your cooperation. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Thank you so much, Sergeant. Good morning, everyone. I am Shekhar Krishnan, Chair of the Committee on Parks and Recreation, and I'd like to welcome everyone who has come to participate in today's hearing on how we can improve the city's long-term environmental quality, specifically by better planning and caring for our city's trees. And it's great to see the wonderful turnout that we have today, too, and everyone here who is passionate about our urban forest and tree canopy. Now, we held a similar hearing on the importance of growing and maintaining the city's tree stock almost a year to date. And in fact, what I learned afterwards was that was the first hearing ever on the tree canopy in the history of our New York City Council. So this hearing is a bit of a follow-up with accompanying pieces of legislation, as keeping a close eye on the progress we make on caring for the city's trees is a critical focus of this committee. The critical need of properly growing and maintaining the city's tree stock is obvious. Trees improve water quality by filtering and diverting stormwater runoff, filter high-frequency noises, provide habitats for wildlife, mitigate the urban heat island effect, foster strong connections with nature, keep the air cooler in warm weather, and provide better air quality by reducing the presence of many air pollutants. In short, our trees are connected intimately to our climate, to our public health, and yes, to our mental health too. It has been estimated that the city's trees reduce annual residential energy costs by $17 million per year and reduce runoff by 69 million cubic feet per year. The process involved in maintaining trees by the Parks Department has many facets that I'm sure Parks will speak to in greater detail during their testimony. Briefly, the process includes a block-by-block pruning schedule, contracting with various businesses to maintain trees, engaging nonprofit organizations to help plant, preserve, and protect trees, and an inspection process through the Park Inspection Program, or PIP, in which inspections on park properties, including trees, are carried out routinely. As we see, caring for our tree canopy is fundamentally a citywide effort involving work by our Parks Department, citizen pruners, and each and every one of you in this room. Over recent years, the department's budget for maintenance has suffered ups and downs as the pruning cycle had to be increased from once every 7 years to once every 15 years and back once again to 7 years. And it's my hope that in their testimony today, the Parks Department give a clearer sense of what that process looks like, and the reason the timeline is what the timeline is. With recent budgets, some of those funds have been restored, but issues still persist. For example, 4 of the top 5 categories of parks-related 311 calls involve complaints about trees, including concerns over premature deaths to new trees, broken tree limbs, and sidewalk damage resulting from growing tree roots. All of us as council members know intimately well that across our districts, as witnessed here by the data from 311, one of the top concerns we get always is our trees, caring for our trees, removing dead trees, making sure there's enough support for our street trees. Additionally, numerous incidents over the years have sadly occurred where bystanders have been injured and even killed from falling tree branches, many from trees that have been weakened due to severe weather. This will be a major problem that needs to be addressed, as climate change is going to leave the city more vulnerable to severe weather and storms, as we've already seen, and city trees and the benefits we derive from them will increasingly be at risk if we don't maintain them in a smart way. In fact, I would also argue the opposite, that our tree canopy is essential to fortifying our city and protecting our city from the harshest impacts of climate change. We know very well, looking across our city, that some neighborhoods have an immense amount of tree canopy and are green, and others, like my own in District 25 in Jackson Heights and Elmhurst, don't have nearly enough of the tree canopy they need. And the impact that has from the South Bronx to the Upper West Side on immense disparities in surface temperatures, especially during the hot summer months. So, I would say if we are to emerge from this climate crisis and solve it and make sure New York City is on the front lines of doing so, then our tree canopy has an essential role to play. And this is also why our advocacy to ensure that we finally get 1% of our city budget for its parks, which, again, is no radical notion, but catching up to other cities across the country, a huge part of it is to make sure that we have the funding and resources we need to care for our city's urban forest. At today's hearing, we will also examine how we can take significant steps to expand our tree canopy equitably, as I mentioned before, to ensure more communities, especially those underserved communities, which have historically suffered from the lack of green space and have been particularly vulnerable to heat island dangers, no longer have their environments neglected. In fact, studies have indicated that the urban forest is unevenly distributed, contributing to general inequity across communities. Generally, research shows that the most vulnerable communities, those with lower average incomes, higher percentages of people of color, and higher rankings on the Heat Vulnerability Index, tended to have the lower tree canopy. And I want to thank our council's data team for putting together excellent maps in the past for our hearings that really demonstrate the disparities when it comes to the tree canopy coverage in New York City across communities. In terms of where our city's trees are, just over half of the canopy is managed by the Parks Department, which includes about 28% parkland and 25% street trees and other rights of way. 1/3 of the canopy is on private land, and the remaining 11% on land that is owned by various other government entities. And I also want to highlight here the crucial role, often not well known, but an extraordinarily crucial role that NYCHA plays when it comes to our tree canopy. I've had the immense privilege of joining Green City Force and NYCHA residents to tour Queensbridge houses and to see the way in which so many NYCHA residents are involved in maintaining the tree canopy there, and what it says about the way in which our public housing plays an essential role in making sure that we have proper tree and quality tree canopy coverage in New York City. The highest number of tree canopy cover is typically in areas with large parks and in neighborhoods that have lower population density levels. The lowest tree canopy cover was in heavily developed areas. Now, many advocates have been working for years on this issue. For example, the Forest for All Coalition has done extensive and excellent work in studying our urban forest to help inform city policymakers and advocates alike on the best steps forward to protect and grow our tree canopy. Some of those steps include goals to expand the canopy coverage to 30% by 2035, up from the current 22%. So we still got some work to do. Strengthening career paths to jobs in urban forestry, developing a master plan to better coordinate care and maintenance of the urban forest, and increasing public investment in care for the city's trees. I certainly support the extraordinary efforts of the coalition, and am proud to work alongside them in our advocacy for 30% tree canopy coverage by 2035, as well as any efforts that aim to increase the quality and quantity of city trees and have the city strategically plan for the long-term future of the urban forest. Policymakers on all levels of government need to get serious in treating our tree stock as crucial infrastructure that must be supported with sufficient resources and, importantly, equitably distributed to all parts of the city. We deserve no less, and the well-being of our environment and the health of each and every single New Yorker depends on it. Today, we'll also consider 3 pieces of legislation. 2 focus on improving the planning and accounting for the quality of the city's tree stock. The other bill is our semi-annual street co-naming bill. Importantly, the first 2 pieces of legislation address an essential aspect of caring for our tree canopy, which is to make sure that we are tracking carefully the progress of planting, of planning, making sure that we are caring for our trees with a larger vision in mind. First, Intro number 1065, sponsored by my colleague Councilmember Bottcher, along with Councilmember Brewer and myself, would require the Parks Department, in consultation with other appropriate government agencies and nonprofit groups, to create an urban forest master plan, which would be aimed at protecting and increasing the city's urban forest, as well as increasing tree and vegetation cover across the city through a comprehensive plan. It would also establish goals to expand and protect the urban forest and would have to be updated every 5 years. Second, Intro 1066, sponsored by Councilmember Brewer, along with Councilmember Bottcher and myself, would require the administration to consider the roles of trees, tree canopy, and vegetation in its long-term sustainability planning as part of its Local Law 84 of 2013, reporting on sustainability. Finally, and apart from our tree legislation today, we'll consider a bill that would ceremonially co-name 112 thoroughfares and public places throughout the city. Co-naming bills, which I've always said, are crucial because they permanently change the landscape of New York City to honor individuals that have played an extraordinary impact or have had an extraordinary impact in our communities and our city, are the result of the Council's periodic process where we seek to honor individuals and organizations that have made lasting contributions to our city. I am proud to have in the past sponsored legislation such as to rename Woodside Avenue, Little Thailand Way, 73rd Street, Bangladesh Street, and most recently on 41st Avenue and 75th Street, Tenzing Norgay, Sherpa Way. Of the many honorees proposed by this piece of legislation today, I'd like to call attention to a couple of co-namings that I am proud to have co-sponsored. My first nomination is for Janet Kelly, who is an important civic leader in my district in Jackson Heights. She served as the director of the Jackson Heights Beautification Group, which does important work caring for our tree canopy every day in our community, and was the leader of the Garden Club, which was very involved in beautifying the community and improving our 34th Avenue open street, our gold standard open street in New York City. She was also active in so many various community activities, as she was a founder of the Jackson Heights Knitting Group, taught knitting at the Catherine Sheridan Senior Center, and was a key organizer of the Beautification Group's annual Halloween Parade for Children in Jackson Heights. My other nomination is for Mike Crowley, who was a founding member and president of the Jackson Heights Beautification Group. Under his leadership, JHBG helped to landmark Jackson Heights as a historic district. He was instrumental in so many other activities that helped to improve our community in so many ways, including establishing the first ever community-based anti-graffiti program in the city, the JHBG Architectural and Good Neighbor Awards, the JHBG Halloween Parade, the Garden Club, and created the Friends of Traverse Park and a community newsletter that we still all receive and read. I'd like to welcome all who have come to participate in this hearing and speak on behalf of the various nominees. Of course, a hearing like today's, in addition to all the excellent advocates and our Parks Department staff who are here too, would not be possible without our council staff that do an extraordinary job each time making sure that our hearing goes smoothly and that we're all prepared for it. So I'd like to thank in particular Chris Sartori, Patrick Mulvihill, Michael Sherman, Rose Martinez, and Ann Driscoll for all your work for today's hearing, including putting together some great helpful data as well. And of course, I'd also like to thank my own staff, our Legislative and Budget Director, Greg Clark, and our Chief of Staff, Chuck Park, for all their work for today's hearing. I'm also thankful to our colleagues who have joined us today too. We have Councilmember Ung, Councilmember Lee, Councilmember Menon, Councilmember Holden, Councilmember Moya, Councilmember Narcisse is on too? It will be soon enough. Councilmember Narcisse virtually. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to our committee counsel, Chris Sartori, to swear in the witnesses.
Thank you, Chair. Would members of the Parks Department please raise your right hand if you're able? Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this committee and to respond honestly to council member questions? Thank you.
You may begin.
Good morning, Chair Krishnan, members of the Parks Committee, and other members of the City Council. I am Jennifer Greenfeld, Deputy Commissioner for Environment and Planning at NYC Parks. I'm pleased to be joined today by our Assistant Commissioner of Forestry and Horticulture, Ben Osborne, and our Assistant Commissioner of Natural Resources and Planning, Marit Larson, as well as our Director of Government Relations, Matt Drury. I want to start by noting our appreciation for the Council's continued advocacy for our city parks and for the resources and support it has provided for our forestry efforts. The urban canopy is one of the most vital resources the city has in ensuring our neighborhoods are healthy and thriving. It provides numerous measurable benefits to our 5 boroughs, including improving human health and well-being, and I am very proud of the work our parkies do every day to grow and protect our city's trees. In my testimony today, I will provide information about New York City's extensive tree canopy, the administration's work to expand and care for the urban forest, and a snapshot of some of our strong partnerships supporting this work. New York City's 42,656 acres of tree canopy is a full 22% of the city's land cover and is best defined as the cover or shade provided by our city's trees. We are excited to report that the city's canopy grew by 3,252 acres from between 2010 and 2017. This robust urban forest provides an incredible array of environmental, social, and economical benefits that you've already heard, such as reducing stormwater runoff, shading buildings, conserving energy by reducing heating and cooling costs, traffic calming, protecting city pavement from rain and sun, noise mitigation, increasing property values, and of course, cleaning and cooling the air, the importance of which became all too clear last week as we were all reminded of the vital role that air quality plays in our overall health and well-being. New York City is responsible for just over half of the city's tree canopy, over 22,000 acres. Within that portfolio, NYC Parks manages 7,300 acres of natural area forest, estimated at nearly 5 million trees, over 156,000 park trees, and over 666,000 street trees. The rest of New York City's canopy grows on a combination of private and public land parcels, such as residential and front and backyards, cemeteries, vacant land, and on NYCHA campuses and other public lands not managed by NYC Parks. NYC Parks has taken a strategic, proactive approach to managing the canopy under our jurisdiction. For example, for over 35 years, we have characterized, monitored, and actively managed our 73 acres of natural area forests, which are spread across over 90 parks in every borough. In 2018, NYC Parks worked in partnership with the Natural Areas Conservancy to develop the Forest Management Framework to guide forest restoration, management, and community stewardship of areas under Parks' jurisdiction. Thanks in large part to the generous support of the City Council from FY20 to date, Parks has initiated restoration and management across 2,000 acres of natural areas across all 5 boroughs, including over 850 acres in areas that have not been cared for in the 10 years prior to this investment. We planted over 394,000 native trees, shrubs, and herbs, with an additional 44,000 planted just this spring. To accomplish all this, we deploy a team of dedicated professionals, providing incredible green job opportunities and continuity of care for a valuable resource that requires informed and adaptive long-term management. NYC also takes a proactive approach to managing our tree canopy outside of our natural areas, the trees that line our city streets and grow in the actively used areas of our parks. These trees play a vital role in keeping New Yorkers cool and healthy, and our latest street and park tree census confirmed that this population is healthy, growing, and diversifying over time. The trees along our city streets are purposefully distributed across every neighborhood because of targeted planting in areas with high asthma rates and high vulnerability to heat, helping to reverse historical disinvestment in underserved neighborhoods. The administration is investing further in the expansion of New York City's street tree canopy, adding over $136 million in tree planting funds over 4 years. FY22 was a milestone year for street and park tree planting, as we successfully planted 13,000 new street and park trees, the highest number of plantings since FY16. I'm pleased to add that we have just surpassed that milestone for FY23 and are on track to plant nearly 15,000 new street and park trees this fiscal year. All New Yorkers deserve to enjoy the benefits provided by trees, so our planting program takes an equitable approach, prioritizing neighborhoods suffering from extreme heat that have not been well served in the past. as well as planting trees in locations requested by local New Yorkers. As important it is to plant new trees, it is equally important that we maintain our existing trees and preserve the vital benefits provided by our tree canopy in every neighborhood. The most marked increase in tree canopy comes from the natural growth of existing trees. In fact, our partners at the Nature Conservancy identified that up to 87% of the canopy increase that occurred between 2010 and 2017 was from the growth of existing trees. Needless to say, public safety is foremost on our minds in our approach to caring for the trees growing along our streets and in the active areas of our parks. In caring for these trees, we employ an innovative risk management approach to prioritize the conditions that present the most risk to New Yorkers and address those immediately. This involves a rigorous inspection program by responsive, in-house inspection program by some of the most qualified and credentialed foresters in the country, accompanied by responsive in-house crews and complemented with contractors who focus on proactive maintenance, including neighborhood block pruning, pest and disease control, and tree preservation during sidewalk repair. Our baseline level of annual funding allows us to maintain a professionally recommended block pruning cycle of 7 years and consistent treatment against pest. In the FY24 executive budget, we were thrilled to receive new mayoral baseline funding to add to that to further support our tree maintenance programs. That includes $2.7 million for tree risk management to inspect and identify concerns before they become major problems and perform more systematic and preventive tree care, as well as $3.3 million for a new climber and pruner training program, which will help to grow the next generation of forestry professionals within the agency. As a demonstration of our agency's commitment to transparency and efficiently, I also want to remind the Council of the great ways we communicate information to the public about our urban forest. These include our popular online tree map, where you can learn about the trees on your street or in your park, and from which you can submit a service request directly to the agency. The Tree Work Hub, the maps and lists planned and completed work, including pruning, planting, trees and sidewalks repair, and stump removal, and the ever-expanding maps of formalized trail networks in parks as natural areas, a program which also received additional funding in the FY24 executive budget and is governed by a strategic trails plan developed with our partners at the Natural Areas Conservancy. I would also like to highlight that in May, Parks launched the Great Tree Search 2023, inviting New Yorkers in every community to tell us about exceptional trees that represent their neighborhoods, tell their stories, and contribute to our city's rich cultural histories. New Yorkers can use the online tree map to nominate historically, botanically, and culturally exceptional trees, so the winners can be celebrated and have their stories preserved. The success of our continuously improving canopy would not be possible without the diligent work of our numerous parks stewards and volunteer groups who generously donate their time and energy to looking after our trees with our stewardship team. NYC Parks has worked hard to encourage a culture of caring for trees and actively involve New Yorkers in that process, including partner organizations. We are active participants in the Forest for All NYC Coalition and appreciate their advocacy for the urban forest agenda, including the goal to increase New York City's canopy cover to 30%. Regarding the park-specific legislation being heard today, we appreciate the intent behind both bills. NYC Parks is constantly working toward creating a more robust urban forest and recognizes the significance of Intro 1065. We look forward to discussing this legislation further with Council and working together to increase tree and vegetation cover across the 5 boroughs. Intro 1066 would amend the city charter to require the role of trees to be added to the universe of considerations addressed by the city's sustainability planning mandated by Local Law 84 of 2013. As you've heard today, NYC Parks clearly agrees that our city trees are vital infrastructure, providing an incredibly wide array of benefits for New Yorkers, and we've worked closely with the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice as they have led the city's sustainability planning efforts. They're here in attendance with us today, and we'll defer to them to formally comment on the legislation. We again want to acknowledge the continuing support of the Council, which has generously helped provide dedicated funding for tree guards, tree planting, and tree-related sidewalk repair. We also want to recognize the advocacy of the Forest for All Coalition and the Playfair Coalition, which led to funding which has contributed directly to the previously mentioned forest management framework and other investments in tree planting and tree care. I thank you for the opportunity to allow me to testify here today, and I look forward to answering any questions that you have.
Thank you so much, Deputy Commissioner, and thank you for all your great work in leading the Forestry Division and all the work that Parks' Forestry Division is doing every day for our trees. I know we've had many conversations, collaborations together too, and we appreciate the attentive detail that you pay to our tree canopy. I know my colleagues have questions too. I have some, so maybe I'll start with some and then turn it over to them and then come back to a few more. But just to begin with, at a very, very basic level, one of the biggest issues, and we've talked about this before too, is with all the work that Parks is doing, there is a difference or a gap in perception between all the programs you all have to care for our trees and also our understanding at the public level of what exactly is involved to inspect the trees, the schedule they're on, the timeline, how planting works. So if you could just give, and I think it'd be very helpful for all of us, because there are concerns that many have, of course, that it takes a long time to plant, inspect the trees. I think I would love to hear a very kind of simplified explanation for all of us how Parks goes about its inspection process. Why is the timeline what it is? And just kind of in a plain language summary of the work that Parks does to care for our trees, our street trees in particular.
All right, thank you very much for that question. So our inspection process, first of all, is carried out by a number of different professionals. Okay. Including, as you mentioned, our sort of everyday inspections that take place by supervisors who are in the park every day. And everything that we do is driven by our tree risk management program. And tree risk management, as we talked about before, is driven by inspections, identifying issues and looking at the tree to analyze them and identify what that potential risk is to the public. So we have different types of levels of inspections. The ones that are sort of every day people need to be looking up at the trees, those are the park inspectors. But we also have highly qualified forestry professionals who have inspections that are sort of driven from two different ways. One, primarily from 311, from service requests that we receive from the public. And second of all, as they are driving around, they also identify or pick up inspections along the way. In addition, through our block pruning program, so block pruning gets a lot of attention, or sort of, we call it a block pruning program, but you in fact can't prune the tree until you inspect it first. So that means that while we're pruning 1/7 of the tree population every year, we're also inspecting every single one of those trees, 1/7 of the tree population every year. So those are the main ways that inspections are triggered through the city.
And what about the pruning cycle? So I mentioned before in my opening statement, at some point, because of budget reasons, it went up from 7 years to 15 years. It's back down to 7 years. How does that compare to the industry standard? 7 years seems like a long time, but would love to hear more from you all. Why is that the timeline for pruning, and do you feel like that is a adequate timeline for the pruning cycle?
Great, thank you for that question. We feel very comfortable with that timeline. It's based upon professional recommendations, and the tree population obviously is very diverse, and so we have to identify a very efficient and effective way of moving through neighborhoods, so that really it's been, our best years have been between 5 and 7 years. Pruning rotation, and we don't want it to be any shorter than that, because tree pruning in and of itself while it's really important to reduce the risk to the public of any potential defects in a tree, it also is cutting a piece of the tree off, and it requires some reaction from the tree, a response to sort of repair that pruning cut. And you need to give time for a tree to respond to that in between the pruning rotations. So in fact, you don't want to do proactive tree pruning any more often than what we're doing now.
And I also want to recognize that we've also been joined by Councilmember Ressler and Councilmember Narcisse now virtually as well. One more fact I wanted to point out too, just to give a sense of how important trees are for our city council and for our communities too. My office did many offices participated in participatory budgeting in our council, and I think we, in the survey work that we did of council offices, about 10% or so of council offices that participated in participatory budgeting had trees as one of their top priorities, mine included. So it gives you a sense of how much everyone in New York City cares about our trees. Now, how does the Parks Department, shifting gears a bit too, how does the Parks Department prioritize the areas of the city that should be targeted with increased tree plantings, and what are some of those areas?
Sure, thank you for that question. Primarily through the Cool Neighborhoods program, NYC Parks plants trees in areas that rate the highest on the heat vulnerability index that was developed by Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. So since the beginning of Cool Neighborhoods, the program's planted over 15,000 new trees in the highest neighborhoods. There are 5 different rankings, HVI 1 through 5. And so now, even with new additional money of $136 million that I mentioned earlier, allocated by the Adams administration for tree planting, Parks expects to fully fill every viable location in all HVI 4 and 5 neighborhoods by 2026. So that's how we really look at how to target our tree planting to both, as best as we can, directly improve public health and also try to shift that historical disinvestment that we've seen over the years.
And can you just give a few examples of the neighborhoods that have scored high on that index that are targeted for plantings?
I mean, I have like 20 different neighborhoods in the Bronx, Williamsbridge, Woodlawn, Eastchester, Edenwall, Soundview, Morris Park, Norwood, in Brooklyn, East Flatbush, Bushwick, Crown Heights, Flatland, Sunset Park, Canarsie, Fort Greene, Manhattan, Central and East Harlem, the Lower East Side, Hamilton Heights, and Manhattanville, and in Queens, Hunters Point, Sunnyside, Long Island City, Elmhurst, Laurelton, South Ozone Park, St. Albans, Flushing, Woodside. These are neighborhoods you actually can go online and see them. You can see the neighborhoods very specifically laid out, and that's what we do. We just use DOH, MH's sort of guidelines to direct the planting to those neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm. And last year, numerous city officials, borough presidents, myself and others also called for implementing a new 1 million trees initiative. Has the administration given any thought to restarting this initiative?
Well, thank you for that question. We are absolutely supportive and appreciative of the mayor's continued commitment to parks and a greener and more equitable future for our park system. At NYC Parks, our goal is to plant as many trees as possible to expand and maintain a healthy, resilient tree canopy. And so we are supportive of initiatives that seek to aid to this goal.
And how about the Urban Forest Agenda's call that we strongly support of a 30% tree canopy cover by 2035? Has the administration given any thought to this proposal, how they plan to achieve it, or other thoughts as to how to make this realistic and achieved?
Great, great question. Thank you. Our latest work has actually been focused on establishing a canopy goal, looking at canopy, not individual tree, as a goal. This work was as a result of our work with the Forest for All NYC Coalition and involved the latest release of Plan YC. So the 30% goal is in Plan YC, and that is to increase canopy up to 30% from our current 22%. And that can be achieved, and it has to be achieved by both planting new trees and protecting the existing trees. We know that the canopy increases, as I mentioned earlier, from 2010 to 17, from 19% to 21%, was 87% attributed to the growth of existing trees. So We also know, based on that, as you mentioned, slightly more than 50% of New York City's canopy is under Parks' jurisdiction. And the Nature Conservancy's analysis shows that we can only get about halfway to that 30% goal on parkland and along streets. So it really is something that needs to be achieved. Increasing canopy cover can only be achieved by cooperation with both NYC Parks, other jurisdictions, and private and other public lands.
That is a crucial goal for this council's too, as evidenced by the letter that we sent you all from numerous council members who signed on to it. So we're going to keep pushing for it too, as well as all the advocates who are here as well. Would you say we're on track? We're at 22% now, 30% in 12 years' time. Would you say we're on track to achieve that goal, and does the administration feel that we will get there by that time?
Thank you for that question. We think it's a feasible goal, but it is a very ambitious time frame.
Well, if it's feasible, we like ambitious. So I very much hope that we can get there, because feasible was the key word. So thank you for recognizing that, and look forward to our work together to keep doing so. I'm going to stop here because I know we've been also joined by Councilmember Carr and Councilmember Bottcher, and I wanted to turn it over to Councilmember Bottcher for an opening statement on his legislation.
Thank you so much, Chair Krishnan. Thanks for your leadership in helping us expand the tree canopy in New York. I really want to thank all my colleagues, too, for their partnership in this. I'm very excited about the legislation that we're hearing today, Intro 1065. When most people think about tree coverage, they think about the aesthetics, and that's really a big part of why we plant trees. But the truth is, they absorb rainwater runoff, which is more important now than ever. They cool neighborhoods. They slow traffic. Streets that are tree-lined have slower traffic speeds. They provide habitat for birds and insects. So it's so important that we grow the city's tree canopy, and I really want to thank everyone at the Parks Department for your work on this, and all the advocates who are here today. The master plan is going to be so important to helping us achieve this goal. So I just want to really thank everyone who's been part of this, and looking forward to today's hearing.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Bottcher, and thank you for your leadership with this excellent legislation. Just a few more questions from me, then I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues as well. And a few more specific questions. If a tree pit is deemed no longer suitable for a tree, does Parks allow other items to be planted there?
If a tree bed is no longer
Correct.
suitable for planting.
Yep. Does Parks allow other items to be planted there?
Great, thank you for that question. Let me take a second. So once, hold on. To be direct, Parks doesn't have jurisdiction over empty tree beds, and we defer to our colleagues in other agencies for suitable planting recommendations. So we are very focused on the health of the tree, and the tree itself is our jurisdiction.
And so who has jurisdiction in those? Is it DOT, or who's got jurisdiction in those situations?
That's a very good question, and we recognize that there is some question about who has jurisdiction. Certainly what can be done on a sidewalk is regulated by DOT, and we recognize that we need to do some work to coordinate a little bit on that.
I think that would be key, and I know there's more testimony coming later on some of these issues, and we've done some work together in the district too on that, which has worked out very well. But I think the importance of having that interagency coordination is really important when it comes to tree plantings, because the jurisdictional issues shouldn't get in the way of addressing them, but I appreciate hearing that you all are attuned to that issue as well when it comes to interagency communication. Oftentimes after storms, we'll see fallen large branches on sidewalks. Does Parks drive around post-storm to see if there are damaged leftover trees that need to be taken away? Does sanitation notify you of those fallen trees or assist in removal? How does that process work?
Thank you very much for that question, Councilmember. So during and after storm events of significant magnitude, Parks does do, sorry, I sort of lost my place for a second. We do direct staff to conduct post-storm sweeps. We did that following Superstorm Sandy and Tropical Storm Isaias. So, and in those two storms, Parks staff drove around and noted debris that remained and had not been reported before. But 311 service requests have become really more accessible and familiar to the public, so we largely rely on the public to guide our inspections and have found this to be the most effective method. We do work with the Department of Sanitation. They are a member of the Downed Trees Task Force, which may be convened by New York City Emergency Management or any member of the Downed Trees Task Force. It's a mouthful, DTTF. This interagency committee, when it is anticipated that a storm response may exceed the capacity of New York City Parks' resources. So similar to our coordination with many other entities on the DTTF, we actually have systems that can exchange data on work orders and completion of work, and that includes DSNY. And don't forget that Parks and Fire police and fire also play a big role in response to fallen trees and limbs. They are first line responders to 911 calls and life-threatening conditions.
Thank you, and I do appreciate in our district too, when those issues have come up, the responsiveness of Parks to address the removal of trees that have fallen down. Just a couple more from my end too. Has DPR, along with other agencies, looked into expanding the protections offered by special natural area districts that have regulations on the removal of certain privately owned trees into other areas of the city?
Thank you for that question. So we defer to our colleagues at the Department of City Planning in terms of any questions about the special natural areas districts. We have consulted with them in the past when DCP was considering updating the SNAD zoning texts.
Thank you. And has Parks thought about developing strategies to diminish the number of privately owned trees that are cut down unnecessarily? I mean, they play a crucial role, of course, in our tree canopy too. So what measures can we take to ensure that they're not destroyed or damaged or cut down?
Right, thank you for that question. So Parks does not have jurisdiction over privately owned trees and has not developed any policies governing their preservation or removal other than the consultation with city planning on regulations for the special natural areas district.
But are there ways to understand there's no jurisdiction there, but are there ways to engage homeowners or other private landowners to exercise more care for their trees, to not cut them down unnecessarily? Has Parks given, right, because they play an overall important role in our tree canopy. Parks has a sizable but limited amount of jurisdiction over our tree canopy. But when we look at the big picture overall, private land plays a key role too. So has Parks given thought to how to engage homeowners or property owners otherwise on the best practices to maintain their trees and not cut them down unnecessarily?
Right, that's a great question. I would say that how we sort of interact with that is in two different ways. One is that we provide a good example for how you care for trees in the public right-of-way. We have a lot of great information on our website that's very applicable to private homeowners. And also we're active participants in these partnerships like Forest for All, and their job is really looking at the entire canopy. So we contribute our expertise to those efforts.
Thank you. I also want to recognize that we've been joined by Councilmember Brewer as well. Councilmember, do you want to give an opening statement for your legislation?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm dealing with people moving into shelters on the Upper West Side. I don't know why no other district gets every press person in the world to discuss it. Anyway, thank you very much. Intro 1066, and I think I was listening to your wonderful discussion, both from the chair, members, and the Parks Department. We do love the Parks Department. We don't love all agencies, but we do love the Parks Department. And so I think it would require the Office of Long-Term Planning and Sustainability to consider, as we have heard earlier, tree canopy and trees and all these important issues that we care so much about. And we do care about our sustainability goals to be aligned with protection and preservation of trees. I remember when Mayor Bloomberg, because I've been around for a long time, launched the Million Tree Initiative, and there wasn't a requirement outlined for the city to make progress on the initiative. And I think that's partly why we're here today. We also thank Mayor Adams for Plan NYC, talking about growth and sustainability. And that, I look forward to working with you on 1066 and the amazing work that the chair, Councilmember Bottser, are doing to talk about long-term impact for our city regarding canopy, number one. I want to thank Forest for All Coalition and Shula Puder from my office. I do want to mention that all of us who put money in for these trees, two things. One, we do not quite understand, as I heard the chair talk about, the plan and when the timing takes place. My block managed to get a friggin' tree before the $250,000 that I put in. So I don't know how the hell my block got a tree first, but they did. So I want to understand that. Also, when the block had a tree guard, the tree guard wasn't put in with the tree. So all of that, how does that all happen? Because I can't walk down my block now without being asked that question. Also, 96th Street is a subway. It's a large Broadway mall space, but I believe in this particular area, the Parks Department is in charge of the trees, 96 and Broadway. Most of them are dead, and I think it's because they weren't watered. And then finally, I do want to say Dee Dee Ford, one of the street namings. She was a wonderful teacher at a child care center in the area, African-American woman at River Park Nursery School, and there are 150 signatures for support of the co-naming for her. So thank you very much. I really appreciate this discussion. It's the first time I think it's taken place in the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Brewer, and thank you for your leadership with your legislation as well. I'll now turn it over to Councilmember Menon.
Great. Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you for holding this important hearing. So I had a number of questions. How many trees were planted last year? I know you talked about the percentage of tree canopy, but I'm curious how many trees were planted last year, and how does that compare to the past 5 years?
Thank you, Councilmember, for that question. So the street and park trees, which is the number that really gets a lot of attention, last year we reached 13,000 trees, which is the highest number over the last 6 years. We haven't seen numbers like that since the Million Trees sort of era. This year we are very close to hitting 15,000, which again is a great number for us.
Okay. And in 2017, your testimony indicated that 22% of New York City was covered by tree canopy. What is that percentage today?
Thank you for that question. We don't have an updated number. We would need to rerun the exact same analysis again, and there actually are plans in the works to be doing that. We're looking at working with our partners at the Nature Conservancy and to redo that assessment so we can have another sort of piece of data.
Okay, yeah, I'd be very interested in seeing that. And then lastly, how many contractors involved with tree canopies or MWBEs?
Thank you for that question. Let me see if we have it. I'm going to ask. We can get that to you if we don't have it right here. I do know for certain that we have 7 new MWBE vendors who are part of our tree planting program, but over the entire tree maintenance and planting program, I don't have that number for you.
Okay, yeah, I'm very interested as Chair of Small Business in getting that, because right now we're at 2% of overall contracts right now are MWBEs, so we really need to do a lot of improvement on that.
Thank you. Matt, do you want to mention where we are as the agency?
No, just broadly speaking, Parks is actually quite proud on its record, writ large, including our capital division and others. So we're happy to follow up with you. We, routinely when the comptroller puts out those assessments and reports, we're usually in that sort of number 2, number 3 spot in terms of all city agencies, in terms of our MWB performance. So overall,
Okay.
we're very, very proud of our record. That's also especially true in the tree realm.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Ressler.
Thank you so much, Chair Krishnan. I think you deserve a great deal of credit for continuing to focus on this issue, and really appreciate your leadership of this committee and lifting up the importance of trees in our urban forest. And I do want to thank Deputy Commissioner Greenfield and the whole Parks Department for their partnership and leadership. I think they really have been doing a good job, and we've enjoyed partnering with you in the 33rd Council District, where with your vision, we developed a plan together to fill every available tree bed over the next 4 years. 3,400 trees are getting planted in District 33 which we're really excited about. Trees are really nature's solution to the climate crisis, and we need a whole lot more of them. We've also been focusing on tree care, and we do tree bed maintenance events every week or every other week across our district, trying to get more and more neighbors involved. Could you speak a little to what Parks is doing to get communities more engaged in tree care maintenance, and how we can encourage more neighbors to support the health and well-being of the trees on their blocks and in their communities?
Thank you for that question, and it has been a pleasure and an honor to be able to work with you on your tree plans. We have an active stewardship program in my division that has events every week that encourages people either to sort of drop into a tree care event, a street tree care, or a park tree care event. We also encourage and have a whole program to empower individuals to become what we call super stewards. So we train them to be our eyes and ears to expand it, because we can't there are 666,000 trees on the street. We can't be everywhere at once. So we really need to be able to figure out how to leverage our expertise. So we identify and train super stewards, and they attend an event, they go to a training, they identify blocks that they want to be able to take care of. So those are sort of our formal programs. And then informally, our tree map is sort of our kind of entry way for engaging New Yorkers. So anybody can go look up a tree, learn about it. That's number one, just notice that tree on your block. And then number two, they can learn what they can do to protect that tree, and then actually record it right there in that map. And then they can get a snapshot of what they've been doing, who might be taking care of the tree in their neighborhood. So we're doing this sort of all around very proactive, targeted care and engagement of volunteers, as well as sort of making sure if somebody's ready to do it, they can. Also, the commissioner announced just a couple of weeks, last week I think, our new initiative to engage a record number of volunteers to help care for city parks. And street trees and trees in general is part of that. We're never going to, we know we need that to be a piece of that puzzle too.
It's great, and I appreciate you articulating all of that so well for the benefit of my colleagues and the public. We've been trying to partner with you on many of those different pieces. We've done a couple pruning classes across our district, which have been great to empower citizen pruners that I think people are really excited about. And we took your street tree map and working with Beta NYC, created a District 33 version of it, and have been encouraging neighbors to kind of adopt a tree or more or two on their block and take responsibility and care for it. One of our neighbors recently adopted 34 trees around their development, so they've got the gold star at Concord Village. So thank you to them and to everyone who's been working on it. We've also developed a street tree fund where we're raising money from neighbors in our community to support the planting of more trees, which has been great. I will tell you one of the things that the costs just are mind-boggling to me, though, and they're really frustrating. And we talked about this at a hearing last year that Chair Krishnan convened for tree planting, but also today I wanted to dig in on tree guards. I think that if I have this right, it's $1,640 for a tree guard, which is just so darn expensive. And if we don't have that tree guard in place, then every dog is in there peeing and people are putting trash in there and making a mess, and it really undermines the health of the tree, the likelihood that it's going to be offering long-term benefits to our blocks and communities and our air quality. I know that there are some kind of secret DIY tree guard strategies that you share with your tree captains, but I really want to figure this out with you all. We've started talking to some nonprofit partners and carpenters about new tree guard approaches that we can try and pursue in our communities. Could you just speak to your openness to trying to think about how do we have more affordable options so that people can protect the trees on their blocks and in their communities? Because $5 for 8,200 is just too darn expensive for anybody to afford.
Great. Thank you for that question. And I will say we absolutely support tree guards. We think they're fantastic. They, remind people the tree is there. That's like the number one thing, see the tree. And we do have standards that we permit and that we would build ourselves if we're putting them in, and they are. They're significant pieces of infrastructure. They're steel. It's based upon, any cost is based upon whatever the cost of the market is. And, but I hope it's not secret. We certainly don't mean to have these sort of DIY options hidden away. We're happy to identify other ones. We've worked, maybe Ben can mention to you that, we've worked with different vendors, with different creative folks to look at ways of building cheaper tree guards or more interesting tree guards. We permit them, but what we care about is that the tree guard does not damage the tree or impact the growing area of the tree. It's a kind of a low standard, and it has to be safe. So we're open to it.
Great.
Absolutely.
Well, we would love to explore that together, and I'd really love to explore with you trying to build nonprofit capacity in our tree contractors so that we can find mission-driven, values-driven, more affordable options for planting trees that could save money. I'm looking at the North Brooklyn Parks Alliance out in the back here at the hearing today. Would love to see them as a partner for the Parks Department planting trees in our community. I know that they could do it much more inexpensively and frankly more ethically, to our last hearings point, to our budget hearings point, than some of the contractors that currently work with the Parks Department. And so I hope that this could be an area of exploration for us to work together as well. And thank you for everything you do. And thank you, Chair Krishnan.
Thanks so much, Councilman Ressler, and thank you for your great work for the tree canopy in your district. Showing me up as Parks Chair, definitely. But one thing I wanted to follow up on that Councilman Ressler asked at the end there too, about tree guards, was we get these requests a lot from constituents about trees outside on their block that need tree guards, and they're very important for their protection. So does Parks have a way for people for constituents to call in and say, hey, we'd like a tree guard here, and what is that process? How long does that take?
Thank you very much for that question. I'm going to defer that to my colleague, Ben Osborne.
Thank you, Council Member. So there are a couple of mechanisms through which constituents can obtain tree guards. One is through private funding and working with, either private contractor or another nonprofit, or our nonprofit program Tree Time, that they can make a donation and have the tree guard installed. The other mechanism is through our contracts, and that is generally done through our tree planting contracts using capital dollars. So capital funding has restrictions. The tree guard needs to be installed with a new tree or as part of a grouping of new trees if capital funding is used.
But my understanding also is that it's, the feedback can be received from Parks, but that ultimately, if it comes to the contracts, they're not targeted to specific. Let's say if a constituent reaches out and says, I need a tree guard here, can that request be honored by Parks or no, right? Or it has to go through a larger process?
Right, yeah. There is no mechanism for kind of one-off tree guard installation under our contracts.
Yeah.
We do sometimes receive discretionary allocations that we can, install tree guards through, a business district or something like that, but the one-offs, we don't have a contractual mechanism for.
Right, that's what I figured, and also, right, it could come through a discretionary allocation. I would just urge Parks also, and this is part of what I alluded to earlier in my opening statement too, is if we want to bridge that gap between how the tree process and maintenance works, when Parks and on the ground level, our constituents and a lot of the tree advocacy groups and citizen pruners, others who are here, they're the first line of, defense, so to speak, or the ones on the ground who know the neighborhoods best, know the streets and blocks where issues. They come up to us, we push them as council members, but if there is a way to make the process more interactive for members of the public and constituents to participate that know best when there are issues with their trees, when tree guards are needed, it would go a long way to addressing that issue, because we look to our constituents, they tell us, they point things that maybe we haven't seen, but I think there's an important gap to be bridged there when it comes to tree guards in particular. Now I'll turn it over to Councilmember Lee for questions.
Hi everyone, thank you so much. This is probably, I think, trees, whether you're talking about tree pruning, tree roots, any kind of tree issues are probably one of the top issues that I get in my district, because we're, I would say, mostly residential, a lot of homeowners, co-op, condo owners, and so we have a ton of trees in my district, which I'm thankful for and love, and so do our neighbors. But I think, especially as I've been walking the streets lately, one of the things, the biggest complaints we hear about is that we have folks that have lived in their homes for like 18, 20 years and have never had their trees pruned. And now the issue is that the branches are going into the windows and the homes and the siding of the houses, and they call 311, try to get something. They've actually spoken to folks at parks, and the response they usually get is, well, is it in danger of hitting? And I literally saw the guy's branch. If it falls, it could seriously injure somebody on the sidewalk. And his response was, okay, well, if it's not dangling, then it's not considered, we can't really do anything about it. So I guess my question is, what are sort of the requirements of when something could be deemed like where it needs to be pruned more immediately versus not immediately? And, what are the sort of standards or requirements? Are those things that can be looked at? Because we've had a lot more heavy storms, rainfall lately, and that has been negatively impacting our neighborhoods as well. And so just wondering what the standard for that is. And also, there's a lot of tree stumps that I've been noticing that are dead and have been dead for a very long time. And it's funny because some of the homeowners take potted plants and put it in the tree stumps to make it look prettier. But, and they want the trees, they would love to have the trees replaced. But they said that, again, they've been calling 311 and requesting when that's going to happen, especially when it uplifts the sidewalks and raises up the streets next to their property. So, I have a lot of older adults in my district, so that's something that I hear a lot of. So just wondering if you could speak to that.
Sure. Thank you very much for your questions. Let's see, I'll start with standards for pruning. I think you do have a good idea that we have both sort of proactive and reactive, and I think your question is about how do we determine what we react to as opposed to wait for the next cycle to come through. First of all, if there is somebody who has told you that they have never had their tree pruned in 18 to 20 years, please send us that address because that shouldn't be, unless it was really too small for one cycle. I don't know. It doesn't quite ring true, so we'd love to find out, and that would help us make sure we haven't missed anything by accident. And I'll let Commissioner Osborne tell you a little bit about the standards about, when do we send a crew out there versus say this is about, proactive, not reactive.
Yeah, so when it comes to, managing risk, which is I think that really fundamentally what you're asking about here, our inspectors are trained in our tree risk management protocols, and, they perform a detailed assessment of the tree. They look at the problem and, the likelihood of that tree or tree part failing and what should happen should that actually take place. And that risk assessment goes into a ranking system. And so we do dispatch our crews to the highest rated risk conditions first. And, we have 4 different categories, A through D. And the extreme risk category A we get to very quickly within 7 days. Category B, we respond to within 28 days, and then category C, we have to prioritize as resources allow. So, and then a lot of what is perceived as a high-risk condition by the property owner, because they see it every day. Of course, that's what they notice may not rise to that level of something that we respond to or need to respond to in very short order. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. And then the other question I had was related to this, which is around the workforce, because I'm just thinking of my district alone, and we have like a tremendous number of trees that are on public properties, and so I can't even imagine the amount of workforce that it takes to take care of the trees, make sure that they're being pruned and taken care of properly. So just wanting to know, with the current staffing that you have available, and apologies because my brain is not functioning correctly these days, but I know that this was brought up and touched upon during the budget hearings, but just wanted to, for my own self, go back into 2 things, which is, number 1, the staffing that you have now, is it enough? If not, how many more would be enough, you think, for that, for all the trees that need to get taken care of in the city? And then the second question I had was around the contracting, because I can't remember what the stance was for Parks Department, but I know that there's been lags in hiring time because the process in and of itself takes a while for folks to get hired because they have to get approved by OMB, and then there's this back and forth. And by the time folks actually get the word that they are going to be hired, they may have already moved on to a different job or something else. And because the parks workers tend to be more seasonal, would it be helpful to have multi-year contracts for some of these people that we hire to say it's not just like a one-year term, but so that they don't have to go through that process over and over again year over year? So just wanted to get your thoughts on that too.
Okay, so thank you very much for that question. So there are a few things I heard about staffing. Our park workers are amazing. They do a great job, they work hard, and we feel very confident that we're doing an excellent job at managing for risk in the urban forest with the people we have. And we do a great job at sort of matching the workforce to the work that is there. So our highly technical, specified, time-sensitive work is done by our in-house staff, and then that's complemented by our contractors, and that's how we can expand our reach, by doing both at the same time. So we feel very good about that. In terms of bringing new people on, I do want to clarify that the forestry program does not depend upon seasonal workers. While parks overall, there is a significant piece that is seasonally hired, but our foresters, our climbers and pruners, and other support folks, those are year-round permanent staff.
Okay, sorry, so for the ones that are seasonal, could you go into that a little bit more? Like, what are the types of work that you do typically use for seasonal, as well as how would it be, beneficial to have, because that was something that I remember we discussed during the budget hearing, unless I'm going crazy, but, because in my mind, just knowing as a nonprofit person formally, the contracting process is crazy, and the hiring process can be crazy, and so I guess from my perspective as a council member, I'm thinking, okay, so what are ways that maybe we can help so that it is not such a cumbersome process for people to get jobs?
Right. Thank you for that question. So the contracting, we definitely look at ways of having multi-year contracts and having renewals as opposed to completely rebidding each time, and that's something we take full advantage of. And then in terms of staff, the seasonal staff at the Parks Department is primarily in our Maintenance and Operations Division, which I would have to defer to my colleague, and we can get you more information about that. But as I said before, primarily there are full-time staff in caring for in the forestry program. With the exception, I would say the one exception is the annual funding that the City Council has been very generously allocating through the Playfair program for our forest management framework.
Thank you, Councilmember Lee. Just two follow-up questions from Councilmember Lee's question. So one of them was, understanding the workforce within the forestry division. I think you just mentioned at the end, there are what we call one-shots that we provide, the City Council does, to keep some of the work going for tree stump removal, for example. There's a larger issue, maybe it doesn't affect forestry in particular, but seasonal workers also that are on one-shot lines as well. So I guess my question is, wouldn't you say that it would be more effective and more helpful to, rather than have one-shot funding, to have permanent baseline staff, which perhaps staff that could be ultimately trained and specialized to become pruners in the long term if you had a larger, baseline City Parks worker staff, and also the one-shots for tree stump removal, for example. If those are baseline too, seems to me like that would be a more effective, sustainable model than every year us having to fight to make sure those one-shots are restored.
Thank you, Councilmember, for that question. Obviously, our year-round employees are sort of the backbone of this agency, and in fact, this active fiscal year here marked a really significant increase, over 700 baseline individual increase in headcount for year-round employees, and that's so separate. As Commissioner Greenfeld noted, obviously there is the nature of parks in terms of that seasonal ebb and flow. That's obviously an important part of the agency operation. But in previous years, there's also been very generously, with the support and advocacy of the council, what we call one-shot funding coming in for, sometimes for specific initiatives like tree stump removal, in other cases, attached to actual, headcount hires. And I think the answer is, we welcome these resources in whatever manner they're available. And certainly the agency has placed a premium on encouraging what we might call year-round permanent, longer-term employment. And in fact, we're actually quite proud of our record in taking a good number of those one-shot funded employees and actually, as openings become available, come and join sort of what you might call the conventional baseline headcount. So I think we see it as sort of a pipeline into which it's actually an excellent mechanism to recruit new employees and get them involved with Parks culture, have them become familiar with the agency. So I think we found one-shot funding to be, well, A, it's additional resources, which is never a bad thing, and B, I think we've actually seen it as sort of a pipeline essentially to kind of engage with new pockets and new individuals and introduce them to the agency.
Thank you. And one more question before turning it over to my colleagues as well, is another area of focus of us as the council has been the schoolyard community playgrounds and the way in which there's schoolyards or off school hours, they can be turned into community playgrounds like in my district. And frankly, I think all of us want more of them in the program because they're very effective ways of creating a public space and park space where none may exist. Sometimes those schoolyards can be full of asphalt, for example, and it's important that they also get shade too and have trees. So if in those models, if more trees were planted in schoolyards too, presumably that would help add to the tree canopy coverage as well, right?
Yeah, as Commissioner Greenfeld signified or noted earlier, there is a significant, whether it's NYCHA or other sort of public partners that have that sort of capacity. So tree capacity for any public space to the degree that can be explored, and I think the Schoolyards to Playgrounds initiative is a great example of where we've worked with agency partners to provide some guidance. In a few cases, there have been funding that kind of came through parks to help provide for some capital improvements on that site, and that's included tree planting in many cases. So by and large, Schoolyards to Playgrounds is a DOE initiative, kind of, they're the leaders on that front, but we've worked in close partnership with them and provided that guidance, and I think there have been opportunities in the past for expanded tree canopy on DOE property, and we always encourage and try to support that wherever we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like there's some opportunities there too. Now I'll turn it over to Councilmember Carr.
Thank you so much, Chair Krishnan, for your leadership and for having this really important hearing. Deputy Commissioner, always great to see you and the team. I want to associate myself with the comments of the Chair and Councilmember Lee regarding regularizing the funding and operation of tree stump removals. I think we've seen in some years there's been great progress, but year to year, it's safe to say it's uneven, which is the nature of one-time funding. So I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I think it applies also to the tree and sidewalk program to some degree, at least on the funding side, and I hope we can work to improve that over the long term. But my questions today are going to focus a little bit on the survivability of trees. And so as part of your census, right, you count the number of trees that don't survive. Is there a leading, top 5 culprit for street trees not making it into a new year? Do you count the cause of death, so to speak?
Thank you very much for that question. That's a good one. Trees are really complicated living things, and when we do our census, we do count dead trees, but we don't indicate the reason for death. You can't always tell. What would you think? Maybe, probably, I don't know. What do you think, Ben? I don't know. I know this is on the record, but it's really trying to think what we think it might be. Yeah.
If we're speculating about like the highest, the trees that we most commonly find dead currently, Norway maple is certainly one of them that was historically planted in large numbers and is no longer planted because it really isn't a great urban tree. So there are a significant number of those that we are, as they are declining and dying, removing and taking out of the population.
So would you say a majority of the time you can't pinpoint a specific cause?
Yeah, I mean, trees die because they're aging, right? And very old trees, as their growth slows down, they're unable to support the continued growth. They need to keep growing in order to live. And so it's sort of a natural cycle of life. So, but just because a tree is old doesn't also mean that it's like time to come down. So it's basically, and species are all very different, and trees die because there's decay inside of them, and decay comes from sort of open wounds, pruning cuts. People cut roots sometimes, and we can't see that, and sometimes that's sort of an entryway for decay. They are I'm trying to think what else causes it. I mean, there are occasions where you know specifically why a tree died, because you could see the roots were cut, because you feel a hot sidewalk and you know there was a steam leak. There's some evidence of that looking at the wood inside. It has like some coloration that indicates there was gas there. So there are a few things like that that are very obvious, but other than that, it's just part of the natural population. In any population, you're going to have a specific, a general percentage of which ones are alive, in good health, and dead or dying.
Right. I ask because if we're trying to protect the city's investment and then also avoid situations where we have stumps and tree beds for long periods of time, I'm looking to see if there's maybe some reason other than old age that would lead to the cause of a death of a tree that we could kind of plan for, anticipate, and maybe prevent. And so I just want to talk a little bit about one of them that, you know, we can debate about whether or not it's a cause, is the spotted lanternfly infestation that we saw very highly last year, and I assume we're going to see again this summer. Is there any concern on the part of parks that the larva implantation, the egg plantation, and the eruption process is harmful to the city's trees?
Thank you for that question, and I do understand that the spotted lanternfly is a nuisance in a lot of neighborhoods. However, it's not a direct threat to trees. It's different than some of the other pests that we've seen over the last 10, 20, 30 years in New York City, in that it's really a threat to agricultural crops like vineyards and hops, but not the trees that we have in New York City. And so we're not managing it directly because, again, it's an inconvenience, yet it's not a threat to the health of or safety of a tree. There are other pests like the emerald ash borer, which is a threat to New York City's trees. It only hits ash trees, and that's about 4% of our population across the board. And we do have a very active management program for emerald, to both treat emerald ash borer in ash trees, to remove trees that are killed by the EAB, and to treat them when we have healthy trees.
I asked that question because, you know, you talked a few minutes ago about how open wounds in trees can lead to rot and could cause instances where a tree would die. I've seen pictures from constituents of lanternflies having been born of trees, a street tree, particularly also in the Greenbelt in the heart of Staten Island. We are blessed with a beautiful canopy in our borough. And so that leads me to think that there is possibly a connection in some cases between the health of a tree and whether or not it was recently the site of spotted lanternflies and their nesting.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think it's a good question. It's certainly reasonable, and we take the same approach. We'll inspect a tree if there's indication that the tree is damaged, that you're seeing decay in the wood or some sort of defect that may have been caused by the spotted lanternfly, but that's what we go by, the health of the tree, not the presence of the lanternfly itself.
Okay, I appreciate it. I have a couple of new plantings in my backyard. We'll see how I do and if they make it to next year. But thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Carr. Also want to recognize that we were joined by Councilmember Velasquez, and Councilmember Dinowitz has joined us too. Now I'll turn it over to Councilmember Brewer.
Thank you very much. I have a question about how the grouping goes. In other words, it's my understanding, and if you covered this, I apologize, but the reason that trees under participatory budgeting, for instance, don't get planted sooner is because you're trying to group and, you know, do a lot more ordering, so to speak. So is that true? And the same thing for tree guards, because I want to understand why it takes so long. And maybe that's a legitimate reason, but I want to understand it.
Thank you for that question. I'll just say overall, as we talked about before, the tree planting allocations are part of the capital program, and it is a lengthy procurement period, and so it is subject to the same regulations and procurement rules that any other capital project is part of. And I'll see if Commissioner Osborne has anything else to add. Okay. Thank you.
All right, but then I understand for the tree guards, you could perhaps, if you just needed one or two, you could do it through the job order contract. In other words, if you don't need to order a whole lot of, you could do it for the same amount of money. Is that something that you do?
Right, so if you can, if we're given expense funding through the participatory program or an allocation because it's not capital, then yes, we have to have a procurement for that expense funding, and if it's a small amount, it takes less time.
Okay. And so how far behind are you for last year in terms of participatory budgeting trees being allocated? Is there some time frame? Is it a couple of years?
It's a year to two between when the fiscal year the money is allocated in and when the contract is active.
Okay.
Because it's about a year for procurement.
So when Jeanette Sadikan put the bike lanes in, she promised me trees. Most of them are dead. So how does the bike lanes, is that just still part of your contract? Same issue like a street tree, no different?
It's a good question. Thank you very much. I think it'd be best if we look at the specific location for you.
Everywhere in Manhattan.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it. I don't know if we planted them or they were part of some DOT installations. I think they're different based on the scale, and we can look into it. It's a tricky place to put a tree.
Okay, but I'm just saying, the bike lanes exist, they have vacant tree pits, for lack of a better word. People are trying to put in some flowers, but a lot of them are full of garbage. And so you're saying it could be DOT or it could be parks, not clear?
No, sorry if I was unclear. I'm not sure who installed them, but if you want them replaced, it would be us. That would
So you
be
would have to be
Parks.
replacing them?
Correct.
Okay.
We would be replacing
So
trees.
I could get the whole list for you, but it is very long.
Yes.
Okay. The other question I have is, the 1066 would require all of us to consider trees, canopy, and so on. And we talked about it, and you did as part of the long-term sustainability. And you mentioned Local Law 84 of 2013. I was here when it was passed. What data, as it relates to trees, is currently included in that report on sustainability?
Thank you very much for your question. Right now, in the most recent Plan YC report that was issued, there are two indicators or metrics in there: tree canopy coverage and the increase that I had spoken about, and the number of street trees pruned. Those are the two indicators that are currently in this Plan YC.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Brewer. One more question I have before turning to Councilmember Bottcher was just about the bill on the Urban Forest Master Plan. What does the department think is needed to make the master plan successful?
Thank you very much for your question. It's a great question. I think that, well, first of all, we have taken a very strategic approach to and a sort of proactive and strategic approach to managing the canopy under our jurisdiction. And I think that's something that's important for the entire canopy. It starts with a comprehensive understanding of what we manage. So we've done it through ecological assessments of natural areas, forests, and complete counts of trees along the street and in parks. And we have a good start with the State of the Urban Forest report that the Nature Conservancy produced. And then based on that information, those assessments for us, again, we incorporate information from those assessment and patterns of public service requests. So you have to sort of bring all that information together, and that in and of itself drives how you allocate resources, where we deploy staff, cycles of maintenance and treatment, and how we measure progress over time. And I think the value of an added value of a management planning process is engagement with communities along the way.
Thank you. Councilmember Bottcher?
Thank you so much. I also want to compliment Councilmember Ressler on everything he's doing on trees. I thought I was Mr. Tree. And then Councilmember Ressler, we announced 1,000 trees.
Oh, he's embarrassing all of us over here.
How many did you announce? Like 4,000? 3,400. So I think we might do that, actually. You do.
It's custom designed. It's not
Yeah.
one council district fits all.
We might do 3,400 because we announced 1,000. We've already planted almost 500 in the year and a half that we've been in office. Want to focus on the issue of unplantable tree pits that Chair Krishnan mentioned earlier. And this is a chronic issue that we've been struggling with in our district when we have many, perhaps hundreds of tree beds that are unplantable. Either they have infrastructure underneath, or they're too close to another tree bed, so they're under the canopy of another tree. I would like to see the Parks Department, I'd like to see you concern yourself with that somehow, even though you're only responsible for the trees themselves, not these empty pits. So it's really no one's problem right now. And our options are limited when we talk about these. We could have them paved over, which no one wants, but even that is a challenge because whose responsibility is that? It's really the property owner who abuts the tree bed. Shrubs, other kinds of plantings are something that I've always wanted to explore for these other, these unplantable tree beds, because if you could plant a shrub or a bush, something that could absorb the rainwater and be aesthetically advantageous, that would be great. But the Parks Department can't do that, am I right? You're only allowed to plant trees.
Thank you for that question, as you know, because we've worked a lot with your office on this issue and really appreciate your attention to it. I think our sort of coordinated approach to saying, okay, this is implantable, how can you work with it? I know you're working with the Hort, and it's an excellent model for other districts. You know, honestly, we're happy to participate in a conversation with our other agencies who look at the public right-of-way and have their own sort of regulations that and policies about that place. And that's true, is that we are only going to plant the tree.
What about planting things other than trees in tree beds?
I think that's a great starting point for a discussion with some other agencies, along with parks, to see how we can do that as a broader greening program.
At one point, I believe I was told that the city charter says you can only plant trees. Is that right?
Well, the city charter only grants parks with jurisdiction over street trees in the right-of-way, but the sort of surrounding right-of-way around that tree, by and large, is under the jurisdiction of DOT. So I'm not trying to, split hairs, but that essentially means that the tree in and of itself is our primary concern. But I think, as Commissioner Greenfeld noted, I think this administration's, making huge strides in terms of thinking of the public realm more holistically and encouraging, more interagency coordination. There's now a chief of the public realm, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think there are a lot of exciting opportunities for increased coordination on that front.
When you work on this urban forest master plan, that is the subject of Intro 1065. Could this be incorporated into it, this question of the unplantable tree beds? Could that be factored into that urban forest master plan?
Yeah, thank you for that question, and we're certainly open to considering that as part of the master plan.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Bottcher. And now I have two questions from Councilmember Narcisse. So the first one is, what's the regulations for sidewalk size and width? Sorry, let me make sure I got it right here. Right, so what is the regulation for sidewalk size and width with the ADA and tree planting? So for example, in Councilmember Narcisse's district, she says we have trees on Garrettson Park and by Canarsie Park where there doesn't appear to be enough room for a wheelchair or even a stroller to pass on the sidewalk due to the trees. So how does Parks consider the balance between accessibility and tree plantings?
Sure, thank you for that question, and we definitely follow ADA standards, and I'll let Commissioner Osborne give you a few more details for that.
Sure. So ADA requirements are generally 36 inches or greater, but we don't go
36 inches?
Correct, but we don't go any lower than 39 in any case, and generally we try to leave larger space in We work closely with DOT on these spacing requirements.
Okay, so I encourage you all to follow up also with Councilmember Narcisse too on those parks in particular. And then the second question from Councilmember Narcisse was, when residents request trees, can they also request the type of tree that be planted?
Thank you very much for that question, Councilmember Narcisse. They can suggest a type of tree, but we do need to leave it to our professionals to really match the tree that is going to provide the most benefits to the city as a whole with the very specific needs of that site. So it's constrained by certain things, whether it's how much overhead space, below space, sidewalk space, what fits in from an aesthetic perspective, but our goal is to plant a tree that provides the most benefits, which is usually a larger canopy tree. But if somebody has a preference, we're certainly open to considering it.
Thank you. And then my final question, just going back to something we talked about earlier with tree guards and the capital contracts for tree guards. Obviously, with big capital purchases, it's not going to be one-off, tree guard purchases. So, what are the kinds of capital contracts, the size of those contracts for tree guards that you all are purchasing when it comes to tree guards?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
I guess
Do you
more
mind repeating
specifically,
that?
you're not buying one-off tree guards, right, through the capital contract, which must be bulk purchases. So, are these large contracts for tree guards, and if so, how much are they, or how are you ordering them?
Sure, I'll let Ben Osborne give you an idea of how we integrate tree guards into our contracts.
Yeah, so tree guards are generally included in our planting program in two different ways. They're either as part of the tree planting contract, so we have an option to install a tree guard along with the tree, and it may be the same time or it may be a few months later.
I see.
Or we also do have some standalone tree guards contracts that will follow tree planting and install tree guards, but it's still associated with the tree planting.
And what are the size of those contracts?
I don't have a number with me, but we can follow up on that.
Okay, if you can, let us know too, just because I think it's important to have a sense in the capital budget how it fits in as well.
Sure, and I will note that tree guards in particular are great ways to incorporate MWBE vendors into the program. So it's actually often a subcontractor, MWBE subcontract on some of the larger tree planting contracts.
Got it, okay.
Some of these guys some of these companies will subcontract the tree guard piece of it, and some of them do it themselves.
If you can, send over the information afterwards, we'd appreciate it. Just some basics about the contracting and the MWBEs that are used and the size of those contracts. I think that's everything. Okay. Well, I want to thank you all. We'll now turn over to public testimony, so I want to thank you all in the administration for your testimony, for your work, and look forward to our continued work together to get to that 30% tree canopy cover by 2035, that feasible goal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now for our first panel of public testimony, we'll call up Emily Maxwell and Alia Sumru. Is Alia Sumru here too? Oh, there. Welcome, Emily. You may start. Sorry, Emily. Do you mind moving the mic closer and speaking into it? Sure. Much better. Okay, sure. Good morning. Is your mic on? Red button. Right.
Shall we try that again?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. It's funny to hear yourself echoing back at you. So good morning, committee members, advocates, committee chair. Thank you for holding this hearing and having me. I'm Emily Noble Maxwell. I'm the city's director at the Nature Conservancy in New York, the world's largest conservation organization. We have 35,000 members here in New York City. We're a proud leading members of Forest for All NYC, a coalition of over 90 organizations. We authored the State of the Urban Forest in New York City, co-released the New York City Urban Forest Agenda, and conducted an analysis of local tree canopy potential that shows we can expand canopy in every neighborhood across New York City. We're here today to enthusiastically support Introduction 1065 and 1066. Thank you to the chairman, the committee, and the sponsors for your leadership in advancing this important legislation to expand New York City tree canopy to 30% cover in an equitable way. Tree canopy is crucial for the health, safety, and livability of New York City, especially in the face of increasing extreme heat and flooding. And we need canopy to be equitably and justly distributed, which it is not. These bills are also essential to achieving the Plan YC 30% citywide canopy goal recently announced by Mayor Adams. We offer a few potential ways to strengthen Intro 1065, although we do fully support it. The Urban Forest Plan should be sure to address environmental justice, climate change adaptation and mitigation, equitable canopy access, and workforce development, as well as accounting for the whole life cycle of trees from seed to salvage. The 30% goal should be tied to a timeline, and we suggest 2035, which has been endorsed by 28 city council members, all 5 borough presidents, many community boards, as well as the members of Forest for All NYC. And the plan will need interagency, cross-jurisdictional leadership. As we heard here today, Parks is responsible for 53% of the current canopy, but a huge portion is under other jurisdictions, both public and private, as well as the huge amount of the potential. So we need that plan to truly have that cross-jurisdictional leadership. We also, of course, have to make the call for sufficient resourcing for parks and the agencies tasked with making this plan to ensure sufficient resource for developing and implementing the plan, as well as caring for our existing canopy. I will note that these bills enjoy significant and broad support. In a poll we commissioned by Global Strategy Group in late 2022, New York voters overwhelmingly said, 97% of them, that they would support efforts to protect, maintain, and expand the New York City urban forest. You will also hear or receive testimony from over 40 organizations as part of Forest for All NYC, under our collective banner on behalf of their own organizations. I know my time is up, so a huge thank you to the chair and the committee and the sponsors for hosting this hearing.
Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you for the Nature Conservancy's work and, of course, Forest for All's work, too, on this really important issue. I just have one question, which is just, we talked a bit before about 30% tree canopy cover by 2035. You all have been extraordinary in pushing for it. How crucial is it to achieve that tree canopy cover for the well-being of our city and our climate?
It truly is essential. So the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene's own researchers have released a paper in the past few years that shows that in order to actually mitigate extreme heat with greening, we need to be achieving at least 32% or more vegetation cover in our neighborhoods. Tree canopy is only one part of vegetation, but it's a big and important part. And so we set the target of 30% so that it could contribute to that true cooling. If we're not reaching those numbers, we're not going to see the actual benefits of cooling, and we will perpetuate the inequities that we see now.
And do you also feel that it's feasible to achieve that goal by 2035, as Parks have testified to?
I will say I agree with Commissioner Greenfeld. It is ambitious and it is feasible. It will take the engagement of agencies beyond the Parks Department. It will take the leadership of the mayor, and it will take the activation and engagement of the private sector, but it is feasible.
Thank you very much. Alia?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Alia Sumro, and I'm the Deputy Director for New York City Policy at the New York League of Conservation Voters. Thank you, Chair Krishnan and members of the Committee on Parks and Recreation for the opportunity to testify today. We have submitted longer written comments. NYLCV is a member of the Forest for All NYC, a diverse coalition collaborating to support the city's urban forest and equitably achieve 30% tree canopy cover by 2035. We are a member of FFA NYC not only because trees and vegetation help mitigate a variety of environmental and public health challenges, including fighting air pollution, reducing carbon emissions, improving stormwater runoff in the urban heat island effect, but because the coalition centers equity and environmental justice in its advocacy. Recognizing that parks, green spaces, and trees are not equitably distributed due to structural racism and historic disinvestment, the coalition's advocacy promotes New York City's urban forest so that it benefits all New Yorkers in a way that is just and equitable. NYLCV supports both bills being considered today because they directly advance the goals outlined in the NYC Urban Forest Agenda. Intro 1065, sponsored by Councilmember Bottcher, would require New York City Parks to create an urban forest master plan, and Intro 1066, sponsored by Councilmember Brewer, would require the city to consider the role of trees, tree canopy, and vegetation in its long-term sustainability planning. Passing these bills are good for the urban forest, good for New Yorkers, and essential to meeting Mayor Adams' recently announced Plan NYC 30% tree canopy goal. Like Emily said, we support Intro 1065 and we offer the following suggestions. We want to ensure that NYC Parks is supported and resourced in the planning of the master plan. So we suggest that the legislation take into consideration listing other city agencies or by establishing an interagency public-private task force. The legislation should also establish a timeline, ideally by 2035, and as Emily also mentioned, we really suggest that the legislation explicitly account for equity, environmental justice, mitigating climate change, and public health. And lastly, I just want to give a shout out, and we would be remiss if we didn't mention the importance of tying in this legislation with more parks funding. We're co-founders of the Playfair for Parks Coalition, and we urge the City Council and Adams administration to increase the New York City Parks budget to at least 1% of the city budget. We really appreciate these bills being considered, and this committee's advocacy, Chair Christian, your advocacy about parks. We look forward to working with the City Council, administration, Forest for All Coalition to advance this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alia, and thank you for League of Conservation Voters' great work for our climate and for our parks. Next panel is a virtual one. It is Lynn Kelly from New York Restoration Project and Charisse Palomino from New Yorkers for Parks.
Thank you, Councilmember Krishnan. I'm Corey Hassan. I'm going to be testifying on behalf of Lynn Kelly, our Executive Director. Good afternoon. My name is Lynn Kelly, and I'm the Executive Director of the New York Restoration Project. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony this afternoon, Chair Krishnan. NYRP is a proud member of Forest for All NYC Coalition, the Playfair Coalition, and a founding member of Parks and Open Space Partners. I'm here today in support of two pieces of legislation up for discussion. Intro 1066 would require the Office of Long-Term Planning and Sustainability to consider the role of trees, tree canopy, and vegetation in its sustainability planning. And Intro 1065, that would require the Department of Parks and Recreation, in consultation with other appropriate government authorities, to create an urban forest master plan. Simply put, NYRP knows trees. For over 26 years, NYRP has planted trees, renovated gardens, restored parks, and transformed open space for communities throughout New York City. NYRP levied the power of private and public partnerships to spearhead and successfully complete Million Trees NYC with the Parks Department. Million Trees NYC was a citywide movement that engaged and energized New Yorkers of every background. The millionth tree was planted on October 2015 in South Bronx, completing this historic effort. Today, NYRP continues to steward and care for thousands of trees planted during the Million Trees NYC era. These now mature trees help keep the city streets cooler, sequester carbon, and beautify neighborhoods. Recently, NYRP concluded our popular free tree giveaway drive throughout all 5 boroughs, where we gave away 3,500 native New York's tree species with over 20 partner organizations, including elected officials. We know you are well aware of the importance of trees in the urban forest in fighting the urban heat island effect, sequestering excess carbon, and absorbing excess rainwater. Last week, New York City had the worst air quality out of every major city globally. Extreme weather is now the norm, and the urban forest is the first line of defense. Intros 1066 and 1065 are the first steps towards ensuring New York City achieves 30% canopy coverage by 2035. An urban forest master plan helps ensure that we have accountability as we consider future budget issues. When creating an urban forest plan, the Parks Department must be supported and receive resources while being allowed broader jurisdictional authority throughout the planning process. The Parks Department manages 53.5% of the total urban forest canopy in the city. Despite all their efforts, they are still chronically underfunded. Future budgets must baseline 1% for parks, while also addressing environmental justice, climate change, public health, and equitable access to green space. Thank you for considering these crucial pieces of legislation.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I just want to say a special thank you to Restoration Project 2 for one thing that we talked about earlier in the hearing was the communication between agencies to make sure that jurisdictional issues don't get in the way of tree plantings and or other parts of urban forest. And I appreciated how your partnership and working together on a 34th Avenue open street where the medians we were able to plant with amazing planters. It's been a huge success. And I know it was a unique project that we undertook together with the Parks Department and DOT with your leadership. So just wanted to thank you all for doing that, and really sets an example of what is possible when we all work together. They've been a huge success in our neighborhood on the part of the open street where we had those great plantings. So thank you all so much. Next we have Cherise Palomino from New Yorkers for Parks.
Good afternoon. My name is Cherise Palomino, and I'm the Director of Advocacy and Programs at New Yorkers for Parks. We are members of the Forest for All NYC Coalition. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. New Yorkers for Parks is a founding member of the Playfair Coalition that advocates for parks and open space and includes over 400 organizations. I also want to thank Chair Krishnan for his leadership on this very important issue of improving tree canopy. New Yorkers for Parks and the Playfair Coalition support each of the 3 bills being heard today. These bills would create an NYC urban forest plan, vital tree canopy monitoring, and the long overdue consideration of trees in the city's long-term planning. Passing these bills are good for the urban forest, good for New Yorkers' health and well-being, and essential to meeting Mayor Adams' recently announced Plan NYC 30% canopy goal citywide. We believe the city needs to set a goal of at least 30% canopy cover by 2035. New York can't wait. We are in the midst of a climate crisis. New York City's urban forest plays an important role in climate change mitigation and adaptation. Urban forests capture atmospheric carbon dioxide. Trees help reduce air and water pollution and cooling costs by acting as energy savers. The Parks Department plays a critical role in managing the urban forest, but nearly half is outside of their jurisdiction. The urban forest needs better protection and management. The City Council has an extraordinary opportunity to demand a comprehensive plan that allows for meaningful investments in the management, protection, and expansion of our urban forests. This is possible with the City Council making a commitment to allocate 1% of the city budget to NYC Parks. We are overdue for a transformative investment in our park system. 1% of the city budget for parks can ensure that our urban forests can be resourced to support New York City during this climate crisis. This is one of the many reasons why NY4P and the Playfair Coalition are calling for a commitment to increase the parks budget to 1% of the city budget, a call that the majority of the City Council support along with Speaker Adams. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much, Cherise, and to New Yorkers for Parks and the Playfair Coalition for all your critical work on that especially important point of achieving long overdue 1% of our city budget for our parks. Next up, we'll call in-person panel, Morgan Monaco, Sarah Balistreri, and Emily Walker.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Morgan Monaco. I'm the president of the Prospect Park Alliance, the nonprofit organization that operates Prospect Park in partnership with the city. I'm here today to voice my support and thank the council for its leadership in advancing the legislation to monitor, protect, and grow New York City's urban forest. The urban forest is a critical public infrastructure and does not receive the resources it needs to serve New Yorkers equitably. This legislation will impactfully advance the city's urban forest agenda. Prospect Park Alliance is a member of the Forest for All NYC Coalition, which seeks to justify and equitably protect, maintain, and expand and promote the New York City urban forest. The urban forest matters to our community because Prospect Park's 585 acres are home to 30,000 trees of more than 175 species. We at the Alliance are charged with maintaining the park's woodlands and natural areas, which represents 350 acres of important wildlife habitat that is home to many species of mammals, birds, and insects. This work to sustain Brooklyn's last remaining forest is critical in ensuring the health and longevity of Prospect Park and the overall prosperity and well-being of our city. As Brooklyn's backyard, Prospect Park serves as an accessible gathering space for all New York City and the diverse Brooklyn communities that border the park. As you well know, the urban forest plays a vital role in maintaining the health of our city. Trees help regulate the temperature during hot summer months, reduce air pollution, which given the air quality crisis we just experienced, is of significant importance. They help manage stormwater and provide beautification. Trees are the lungs of our city and should be treated as important as a fire hydrant or lamppost. Despite the importance of the urban forest and its perennial need for stewardship, there is no dedicated long-term funding or committed plan for managing New York City's trees in the years ahead. These bills will create a New York City urban forest plan, vital tree canopy monitoring, and will ensure that trees are considered as part of the city's long-term planning efforts. Passing these bills are good for the urban forest, good for New Yorkers' health and well-being, and essential to meeting Mayor Adams' recently announced Plan YC 30% canopy goal citywide. While we support the legislation to create an urban forest master plan, there's some specific opportunities for improvement. First, ensuring that NYC Parks is fully resourced and has support from other agencies with broader jurisdictional authority. And second, establishing a timeline for achieving this goal by 2035. And lastly, ensuring that the plan explicitly accounts for and improves environmental justice, climate change, health access, workforce development goals. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony and all your leadership to the Prospect Park Alliance and your great work to ensure that we have the tree canopy cover and support for our parks that we need. Next, we have Emily from the Natural Areas Conservancy.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Emily Walker, and I'm the Senior Manager of External Affairs of the Natural Areas Conservancy. Thank you to the members of the committee for the opportunity to speak today. As a proud member of the Leadership Committee of the Forest for All NYC Coalition, the NAC is in support of the intent of Intros 1065 and 1066 and efforts to expand the canopy coverage of our urban forest to 30% of NYC's land by 2035. We offer the following points of feedback for consideration. Urgent protection is needed for our existing urban canopy, particularly our natural forested areas. Of the 7 million trees currently in NYC, approximately 5 million are located within forested natural areas. And it's worth noting that these 5 million trees store almost 70% of the city's carbon, providing an outsized level of value relative to other portions of our urban canopy. We ask that the council and the administration properly allocate the funds necessary to care for the existing canopy of our forested natural areas, as this funding has been stagnant for years and we run the very real risk of losing swaths of our natural forested areas if we continue this level of disinvestment. We believe the success of the urban forest plan rests on the ability of the public to have high quality access to the urban forest itself. The mayor recently allocated funding in the FY24 executive budget to improve and promote the use of 300 miles of nature trails, which presents a very real opportunity to bring more New Yorkers into our invaluable forested natural areas. While we celebrate this funding, it's critically important that the FY24 budget include funding for parks in the urban forest, including $3.5 million to continue the work of caring for our forested natural areas. We believe this plan should not be the exclusive responsibility of NYC Parks. The agency has vital expertise and guidance on how to properly expand and care for our urban forest. However, as was noted earlier, about 53% of the urban canopy falls under their jurisdiction, with 47% remaining canopy falling on land belonging to other agencies or private property owners. We recommend that the plan be completed in tandem between another mayoral agency and parks to help elevate its importance and the success of its implementation. We also think the plan should be intentional about including considerations of environmental justice, climate change, and workforce development. The current gaps in our urban canopy exist in communities citywide that have been subject to historic redlining and discrimination, and these neighborhoods remain our most valuable and vulnerable, with respect to climate change, and stand to benefit the most from a targeted expansion of our urban forest. We also believe that the expansion of the urban forest represents an opportunity to create reliable and quality green jobs for New Yorkers. This legislation is an exciting opportunity to contemplate the entire life cycle of our urban forest and the multitude of benefits to New Yorkers. Thank you again for your leadership and for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you so much, Emily. Now I'll call up our next panel, Sarah Balistreri, followed by April Bove-Krishnan.
Hello, my name is Sarah Balistreri. I'm an environmental educator with Trees New York, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to plant, preserve, and protect New York City's trees. Thank you to the committee for inviting testimony today about intros 1065 and 1066. For over 45 years, Trees New York has engaged volunteers across New York City in planting, stewardship, and education. For the past 2 years, Trees New York has been a proud member of the Forest for All New York City Coalition, a group whose achievements in these short 2 years are a testament to what can happen when over 90 organizations across business, nonprofit, conservation, and environmental justice sectors galvanize toward a shared set of urban forest goals. On behalf of Trees New York, and as someone who works to educate New Yorkers about the countless benefits of a healthy urban forest, I would like to express my support for both bills, intros 1065 and 1066. In particular, I support the bill's inclusion of regular data collection and monitoring to assess the growth or loss of canopy cover. Among other things, this data will likely highlight the enormous importance of stewardship, not only planting, in realizing the goal of 30% canopy cover. We often say that it takes 5 years to plant a tree, about an hour to put it in the ground, and the remaining time to ensure that it becomes properly established through watering, soil management, and responsible pruning. Urban trees that survive their first crucial years in the ground are much more likely to grow to maturity and provide the maximum benefits of canopy cover, heat reduction, carbon sequestration, and stormwater interception. One element that is currently absent from the language of Intro 1065 is a mention of environmental justice. We encourage the committee to explicitly require the Urban Forest Master Plan to set and monitor goals that ensure equitable expansion of canopy cover across neighborhoods, including those that have been historically under-resourced when it comes to green spaces and trees. Again, on behalf of Trees New York, I thank the committee for inviting this testimony about these bills that would be good for the urban forest, good for New Yorkers' health, and essential to meeting the goal of 30% canopy cover citywide. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry. All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. It's so good to see a fellow Jackson Heights constituent here, and thank you for your work in our neighborhood, in our district, and across our city for urban forest and green space. And now we'll hear from April Bove-Krishnan. Great last name, if I do say so myself.
Hello, my name is April Bove-Krishnan, unrelated, and I'm a longtime Tribeca resident and a founding board member of the City Hall Park Conservancy. Thank you to Chair Krishnan and the committee for hearing our testimony and inviting us in. The Conservancy is a volunteer-led nonprofit organization that works towards helping the park maximize its potential through horticultural initiatives and free programming. We're proud to be a member of the Forest for All New York City Consortium, as we feel strongly about the importance of protecting and expanding the urban forest in an equitable way. Tree canopy monitoring and the creation of a New York City forest plan is a long overdue initiative in the city's long-term planning and will directly benefit all New Yorkers. We see the benefits of tree cover right outside these windows in City Hall Park every day, providing shade and shelter to thousands. We are lucky to have an extraordinary collection of London plane trees, ginkgos, American elms, and many others in City Hall Park, but we need more and better care. More street trees could create green connections northeast towards Columbus Park and Collect Pond, west along Chambers Street to the river, and south towards Bowling Green. These bills will be essential to meeting Mayor Adams' 30% canopy goal citywide in the updated Plan New York City. We strongly support Intros 1065 and 1066, which will increase consideration for the role of trees, tree canopy, and vegetation. For Bill 1065 in particular, we would like to request that consideration be given to ensure that the DPR is supported and appropriately resourced in planning and has a co-lead with broader jurisdictional authority, as well as the time and funding to accomplish this effort. As others have mentioned, we believe a timeline of achieving 30% cover by 2035 would be beneficial, and we also support adding language which explicitly accounts for and improves environmental justice, climate change, health, access, workforce, and addresses the full life cycle of trees. I want to thank the committee again for hearing our thoughts and opinions supporting these bills. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now our next panel is Frederick Nass and Lucy Cotin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony this morning on your two city bills, 1066 and 1065, which we support wholeheartedly. My name is Fred Nass. I'm president of Wild Ones Long Island. We are part of a national organization of over 100 chapters across the United States that encourage and promote the use of native plants and landscaping by homeowners and any groups that want to see a healthier environment around them. Your two bills are important to our members because while our name incorporates Long Island, we do cover geographically the boroughs of Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island with our membership. So we have an obligation to support this legislation as steps going forward towards creating a healthy tree canopy and tree population, as well as a healthy environment for wildlife, insects, and our human species as well, both physically and emotionally. I won't elaborate on previous commentary from members of your committee and other testimonials. It's all excellent commentary. It is all important commentary and all truthful commentary. I will say that in our travels to other areas of the world, we have researched and looked at other programs that major metropolitan areas have been incorporating for maintaining and improving tree canopy. Paris, France has a program called Green Paris, which is, I believe, over 10 years, planning on planting 175,000 new trees. Barcelona has their Superblocks program to remove vehicular traffic on certain areas and create treed neighborhoods. And even architecture of the kind, the Bosco Verticale in Milan, Italy, is what I would call the contemporary Hanging Gardens of Babylon, a building that incorporated terraces for residents to have trees and shrubs and perennials, which has provided an immense amount of habitat and recorded the reinvitation of bird and insect species. So I will finish up with certainly supporting these important pieces of legislation going forward. Some suggestion on our part would be that the text would incorporate to say that the use of native trees and plants would be of super importance to create the proper habitat for wildlife and insects to come back. And also it would be in the idea of perhaps raising trees from local tree stock and shrubs and plants to preserve the genomic heritage, and also to look at removing any invasive species plants where they are found, to replace them with native species as well. Thank you for the time today.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Lucy Coteen? No? Okay. Next panel is Joseph Charup and Melba Kerman.
No, you go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Melba Kerman. I live in Bronx District 11. I am in favor of the legislation with a couple of modifications. So first of all, my background is in tech. I've worked at Microsoft for several years, and I keep track of the urban tech space, and I've written 2 books on emerging technologies, and more recently I have been following along with the huge advancements in artificial intelligence and the huge growth in urban data. So brings me to the data and the value of data in furthering transparency and accountability. So I don't think it's so much a matter of funding, and this previous discussion today was very illuminating for me. I think it's a matter of using money better and organizing this so that we can actually get more traction on the problem of planting more street trees. So just as an example, I did my own inventory. I'm not as lucky as you are on the Upper West Side that you have a mature effort on this. In just a few blocks, I discovered 50 empty tree beds that need trees, but the question is now what? Who's going to plant those, and how do I get their attention? The other is, and speaking of accountability, the cost is exorbitant. It's $3,500 for 1 tree bed, and that's just to start. So this brings me back to data transparency, and I really recommend that the committee educate itself about remote sensing and new forms of computer vision, because LiDAR is just one tool in one much bigger toolbox. The second is that you consider giving funding and control of this to the district level, not to the New York City Parks Department, because that agency is very difficult for regular people to communicate with. And finally, speaking of transparency, every district should be required to share its results, its granular block level tree bed data, and that way when everything's put on a public portal, we can actually see which districts are following through and which districts are not. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Joseph?
Good afternoon, Chair Krishnan and members of the committee. My name is Joe Charup, and I'm the Vice President of Horticulture at Greenwood Cemetery. Founded in 1838, we are a 478-acre National Historic Landmark and Arboretum in the heart of Brooklyn. And as the sticker on my lapel suggests, we are also a proud member of the NYC Forest for All Coalition. We're here to voice our enthusiastic support for Councilmember Bottcher's Bill 1065 to create an urban forest master plan. This plan will be a vital first step to ensure that we achieve the Coalition's goal to create a healthy, biodiverse, accessible, and resilient urban forest for all residents of New York City. We also strongly endorse Councilmember Brewer's Bill 1066. One of the city's greatest assets is its tree canopy, vital for the city's resilience. To not include trees in the city's long-term sustainability planning would ignore all they do for us, which others have eloquently enumerated today. I'll just simply add that they are our oldest, largest friends, and they deserve our gratitude and consideration. We're also here to issue a call to arms for any and every private landowner throughout the city, big or small, to ensure we reach the city's goal for canopy cover. The Nature Conservancy looked at all the areas in New York City where trees could be planted, and 68% of that land is private. The takeaway is clear. If we're going to get to 30% canopy cover by 2035, we need private landowners to step up. As New York's largest contiguous private landowner, we are committed to leveraging our acreage to support the goals of the Coalition and the resilience of the city. We have 8,000 trees and will plant 2,000 more over the next 5 years, growing our canopy cover from 32% to 35%. You may ask, who benefits from a cemetery in Brooklyn planting more trees? Greenwood's longest border is directly adjacent to Sunset Park, a thriving community and an environmental justice area, underserved economically, culturally, and environmentally for decades. What happens at Greenwood does not just affect us, but all those who live around us. We may be private, but we are dedicated to helping the public good. I'd like to invite members of the committee to visit Greenwood and see how our actions reinforce our committee to the goals of the coalition. My contact information is in the printed testimony, and I look forward to welcoming you all to Greenwood soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And thank you. Having been to Greenwood myself, too, I know how important of a role it plays, too, in the green space and also the surrounding communities as well. So thanks for your testimony on that point. Next up on the panel, we have Ryan Mahoney and Donald Shanley.
My name's Don Shanley. I live on West 74th Street. I do not belong to any organization. I'm just an individual who takes care of a ginkgo stinko tree in front of my building. I've been doing this for over 20 years. There are people on my block that do the same thing, individuals. They aren't associated with any organization. They just do it because they want to keep the tree alive. West of me, every tree has been cut down because they weren't being taken care of. And some of the trees east of me have been removed and replaced. The problem is I can't afford, and most of my friends who do this can't afford $1,000 for a tree guard. This is something I'm going to suggest the city covers for any viable tree. Because if they're not being taken care of and they're not being protected, they're not going to be around very long. I mean, my tree is probably 50 years old. I've been on my block since it was planted. And the other thing I'd like to see is signs that ask for dog owners to curb their dogs, signs that call attention to protecting trees be put back up. There haven't been curb your dog signs up for decades. I don't know why they were taken down. But since the pandemic, we've had probably double the number of dogs on my block. From 6 in the morning till midnight, you're talking about probably a couple of hundred dogs back and forth. And if the tree bed isn't protected, it becomes a bathroom for them. This needs to be addressed. And one way is to get tree guards placed on every tree bed where there's a viable tree and not expect people like me to pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Now we have Ryan Mahoney.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Ryan Mahoney. I'm the president and principal biologist of Gotham Bat Conservancy, a wildlife conservation organization that focuses on the conservation of bat species and the critical habitats that they inhabit. We are a member of the Forest for All Coalition and dedicated to the protection, maintenance, expansion, and promotion of the urban forest, and a member of the Endangered Species Coalition, dedicated to stopping the human-caused extinction of our nation's at-risk and endangered species, to protect, restore, and enhance their habitats, and to guide their populations along a road to recovery. I'm here to express our support today for the bills that we've been discussing today. Gotham Bat Conservancy spends much of our time in the urban forest, locating and identifying the presence of bat species that have been decimated by disease and habitat loss over the past 2 decades, decreasing in numbers by over 90% since 2008. All parts of the urban forest serve as vital habitat for the species. Why does this matter? Like, why is the Batman here talking to everybody today about the forest? At large, bats perform a variety of services to the environment, ecology, and economy, such as pest suppression, seed dispersal, and pollination. In New York City, we're supporting a burgeoning urban agricultural movement. Bats perform up to $50 billion worth of agricultural pest management in the United States every year, highlighting their significance to agriculture, community gardening, food security, and the reduction of pesticide application. In addition to these services that bats provide, they have clear reactions to alterations in the environment, making them a highly important bioindicator, indicating the health of the environment. Changes in the presence and abundance of bat species indicate changes in the environmental health. Tracking bat populations during the process of restoration and enhancement projects, like the one that we're talking about today, serves as an important indicator of the impact of the work. In addition to our support of these bills regarding the urban forest, I'd like to express our desire to collaborate in evaluating the health of the New York City urban forest with biological metrics, in addition to LIDAR, as an interested non-governmental party. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next panel is Nicholas Guntley and Chrissy Word. You may begin. Yep.
Okay,
sure.
thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for the opportunity to give testimony today, Chair Krishnan and committee members. I'm Chrissy Word, Education Director for City Parks Foundation. As members of Forest for All New York City, we care about the city's urban forest because we are acutely aware of the essential benefits for all living beings that trees provide us. In addition to the vast environmental benefits trees have for our city, filtering air, sequestering carbon, absorbing stormwater, and supporting wildlife habitats, trees also provide vital connections for people to the natural world, which can help improve mental health. Time spent in forests reduces stress, lowers blood pressure, decreases anxiety and depression, and strengthens our immune systems. We also know that neighborhoods with plenty of healthy trees experience higher real estate values and lower crime rates. Yet, New York City, one of the wealthiest cities in the world, lags in many areas in its canopy cover and general care for trees. We believe the city needs to set a goal of at least 30% canopy cover by 2035. To help reach this goal, we support the City Council's legislation to create a master urban forestry plan and ask the city to provide the funding needed for New York City Parks to support this program in collaboration with sister agencies. Through our environmental education and community building programs, we have worked with thousands of youth and adults to assist in providing access to our city parks. Our community building programs, including Partnerships for Parks, build and support a network of people who care for their trees and their local green spaces throughout New York City, while our school-based youth programs include curricula about trees and their ecosystem services. Our Green Girls program, in particular, integrates deep education about trees and tree stewardship through the lens of environmental justice. Our students surveyed over 300 trees during the last Trees Count community survey and are preparing for the next one. They have assisted in protecting hundreds of trees in their neighborhoods and parks through tree pit improvement, invasive plant removal, and advocacy campaigns to reduce litter. These many stewardship opportunities are more than just community service. Caring for trees while learning about the ecosystem services they provide to us and to our city results in more New Yorkers becoming advocates for their neighborhoods and for our environment. Participants truly come to understand that trees are our living partners. We could not do any of this work without New York City Parks, the agency that plays a vital role in managing the urban forest. However, nearly half of our tree canopy falls outside of New York City Parks' purview and isn't well protected, managed, or planned for. Our city's canopy needs protection, a plan, and investment in management and expansion. This is why City Parks Foundation recently requested federal support from the U.S. Department of Agriculture to fund small grants to communities across the city that are most in need and that wish to undertake improvements to our city's tree canopy, and why we are very supportive of the Council's proposed legislation to improve planning and strategy. Thank you for the opportunity to submit testimony. We appreciate your efforts to build legislative and budgetary momentum for this vital element of our city.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Now we've got Nicholas Guntley.
Good afternoon, Chair Krishnan. Can you hear me now? Good afternoon, Chair Krishnan and members of the council. Thanks so much for holding this hearing today on improving our city's tree canopy. My name is Nick Guntley, and I'm the Senior Director of Horticulture at the Horticultural Society of New York, also known as the Hort. As a service provider with 120 years of experience tending to New York City's natural environment, the Hort would like to advocate for expanding and supporting our vital urban tree canopy. Our mission at the Hort is to improve human life through horticulture. For most New Yorkers, contact with nature happens on the go, in planters, tree pits, and other small in-between areas, incidental or planned, that provide access to the earth. The Hort plants these in-betweens, even those considered unplantable, which we mentioned earlier in the hearing. We believe that these small planted spaces add up to provide city dwellers with the people-plant connection essential for a healthy society. At the Hort, we work in more than 350 job sites in low to medium income neighborhoods across the 5 boroughs. We cultivate and maintain more than 1,100 trees and tree pits. Our crews provide water, remove weeds, waste, lay down mulch, and install plantings in order to sustain the holistic health of our urban forest. We plant trees as well as install tree guards in many of these pits to help promote the health of our city's tree canopy. As the number of trees in NYC continues to grow, we all need to advocate for tree health from the ground up. As many people mentioned today, there's a number of environmental benefits, and a healthy tree canopy will work to mitigate the effects of climate change on New Yorkers and their neighborhoods. We all know how much our tree canopy nurtures physical and mental health. As an organization that has pioneered and advanced the field of horticultural therapy for 30 years, the Hort has directly observed the psychosocial benefits that trees and plants bring to communities. Access to nature reduces stress as measured by reduced heart rate and blood pressure. In addition, green spaces offer cultural gathering spaces, oases for contemplation, and powerful analogies of growth and endurance that can be applied to human life. Trees and plants help activate our city, making neighborhoods safer by bringing people together on tree-lined streets and providing economic benefits through increased business activity on commercial corridors. In addition to its environmental, social, and economic benefits I've discussed, there are many benefits of the urban tree canopy still being discovered, such as providing a habitat for wildlife and serving as an essential ecological pathway for pollinators and birds. Our tree canopy nourishes a more resilient, vital, and healthy New York, and we strongly believe in the need to bolster the quantity of trees and quality of their care. We all benefit from this increased connection with nature in our city. We know this benefit is recognized by New Yorkers because people always thank us when they see us bring plants and trees into their community. Thank you for allowing us to give our testimony as you discuss bills to increase our urban canopy and codify its importance in our city's planning practices.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the Hort, too, for all your great work in our public spaces across our city, too, including in my district, and the City Parks Foundation for all of your free public programming in our public spaces. Thank you both.
Can I just add to the Hort and to everyone else? If Riverbank, thank you. And if the Hort wasn't on 84th and Amsterdam, I would kill myself. Thank you.
Can I quote that? Thank you.
And our next panel is Eric Goldstein and Jack Bolenbach. Eric Goldstein.
Good afternoon, Chair Krishnan and Councilmember Brewer and Intrepid staff. I'm Eric Goldstein from the Natural Resources Defense Council. I'm going to summarize my written testimony today. Rarely have I heard a legislative hearing where the testimony was more unanimous, and so I'll just join in the echo. The climate crisis is real. One of the impacts is extreme heat. The impacts of extreme heat aren't equally shared throughout the city, but fall disproportionately on low-income communities and communities of color. A vibrant tree canopy is part of the answer. A Montreal study found that a broad tree canopy there could reduce air temperatures as much as 4 degrees centigrade. A Lancet study found that up to 40% of extreme deaths in European cities could have been prevented if the tree canopy were increased to 30%. And here in New York City, while some progress has been made on this issue, much more is needed. Intros 1055, Councilmember Bottcher, and 1056, Councilmember Brewer are sensible measures that would move us in the right direction. The proposals are also consistent with the mayor's own sustainability plan recently released, which at least pledged to move in the direction of 30% tree cover. We offer 2 friendly amendments to 1056. We suggest adding a new subsection 6, a specific directive that the urban forest management plan include a focus on environmental justice in low-income neighborhoods where residents are particularly vulnerable to the impacts of extreme heat, and to prioritize those neighborhoods as the plan implementation moves forward. And we also endorse the broadly sounded message that there be a 2035 date by which this effort ought to be achieved. Finally, time is of the essence, not only because the climate crisis isn't going anywhere, but because swift action by New York City can enhance the chances of securing federal funds. Under President Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, over $1 billion in grants is available to increase equitable acres of trees in urban and community forests, and we ought to be taking advantage of that grant program. This, of course, is no substitute for city funding, but additive, and so again, we endorse the call that you and others have made that 1% of city budget funds go to the Parks Department to address such issues as tree care, tree pruning, tree pit efforts, and the like. And we thank you for your attention and for moving this legislation forward.
Thanks so much for your testimony. Jack Bolenbach?
Yes. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Mr. Kirshen and the City Council. I'm a retired New York City Department of Environmental Protection employee, but I was in the electrical end. But after the destruction of Mount Maurice, a 15-acre old-growth forest that was destroyed on Staten Island, I got involved with volunteering for the environment. I belong to 6 different environmental organizations, including the Protectors of Pine Oak Woods, which is Staten Island's largest. And all the testimony today was excellent. I just wanted to say that a couple ways to save some of the trees at minimum cost would be if we could plant trees along the highways. For instance, by the Verrazano Bridge, there's a lot of grassland. It costs the city money to cut the grass, and a lot of times they don't. There's a lot of garbage that builds up. It's an eyesore. Why not plant trees around those grasslands? It would help mitigate the pollution, but you could look at a map and see where trees need to be planted along the highways. That's one way of doing it, to find places to plant. Another way is, in wake of what happened at Mount Maurice and Graniteville, where 30-some-odd acres of forest was destroyed, we developed a project over the last 3 years of identifying unprotected open green space. And we have a list. We narrowed down to the top 6, but number 1 on that list is the Serpentine Ridge, located by Stapleton, Tompkinsville, Clifton, on Staten Island, and the New York State DEC recognized these sites as environmental justice communities. So people don't have access to nature preserve. This ridge, it's like 300 feet high, it's tree covered, has trees already there. 6 acres belong to the city. It's DCAS property. Why can't those 6 acres at no cost to the taxpayer be protected? Some way in legislation and city council. And there's a couple of privately owned lots owned by a union. We'd like to get them protected, but we would need the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. We would need them to get involved with the New York State Environmental Bond Act that was just passed in November to get that money appropriated to protect that land. That's number 1 on our list of the sites. And we found other city-owned properties on that list that's tree covered. So we already have tree covered areas. That's very, very important. So why can't we look at that, assess it, and see if it's worth saving? And it will save money, and it will also be great for the environment. So that's kind of my project here that we've been working on 3 years. It's all volunteer, and we really think that it's a way of helping the environment and the quality of life for the citizens, especially in Stapleton. If you look at the community, they desperately need an open green space that's protected. Especially for the children, and the way of doing it would be protect as much of the property as we can on the Serpentine Ridge, which is actually included in the Hillside Preservation District. So that would help us too in that respect. But we need the state to get involved, but we would love to have the city supporting this, at least to write some kind of support letter to the state to look into these properties to see if they can be protected. And I have a letter from the president of Protectors Pine Oak Woods, Cliff Hagan, which I'll send it to you by email. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your work. And at our last council, we actually passed a bill that I had spearheaded to require these agencies to study more ways to expand green space, including looking at highway entry and exit ramps for more vegetation and green space. So,
I could also send you the information on the Serpentine, and we do have a 20-minute video we made of the 6 top properties, if you're interested. We could cut it down to each section, like 3 minutes, 4 minutes.
Sure.
But you might be interested in seeing what we've been doing.
Absolutely. Sure. Send it over. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Okay, thank you.
Our final in-person panelist is Katie Denny Horowitz.
Is it on? Good afternoon, committee and Chair Krishnan. It's Katie Denny Horowitz. I'm the Executive Director of the North Brooklyn Parks Alliance. I am lucky enough to be in the 33rd District with Councilmember Ressler, but also serving all of Community Board 1 as New York City's only district-wide Parks Conservancy, working with Parks and DOT and other agencies to service public spaces throughout the Community Board, also the co-chair of the Parks Committee for the Community Board. I'm going to deviate a little bit from my testimony, just to talk a little bit about some things that I've heard today with the legislation at hand, which of course I am fully supportive of as North Brooklyn Parks Alliance, as a very proud member of Forests for All over the last year or two, since they've been created, and working with Councilmember Ressler on his Street Tree Fund. We are the fiscal sponsor, and wholeheartedly support the expansion of tree canopy. And we've talked a lot today about the expansion and the feasibility of that. A little bit about the maintenance of it. I also was at New Yorkers for Parks more than a decade ago during the Bloomberg administration during Million Trees, and at the time we talked a lot about the maintenance of those trees and the fact that even though Million Trees maybe had the feasibility to be planted, maintaining them and keeping them alive was paramount. And I think as we talk about the tree expansion now, a lot of folks have talked about how this has to be considered in combination with the Play Fair Coalition, which is a huge complement and necessary component of this, so that the maintenance funding for the tree care can be put in place as we're expanding. I think that I am one of a chorus of voices behind me to support the expansion of the tree canopy, but also to dedicate maintenance funding to keep them alive, because not only is the existence of the canopy, but also as a local resident, walking by the street trees on your local block is a quality of life issue as well. And when our street trees, which is our only sometimes experience with a small plot of green land or green opportunity, one that is either carrying a dead tree, carrying a sick tree, or carrying a lot of weeds and litter, not only is a impediment to our combined efforts for climate change, but also for the morale of a neighborhood. So please keep in mind the maintenance funding as well as the expansion of the canopy overall. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony and all your work with North Brooklyn Parks Alliance. Now we'll go over to our virtual witnesses. And we've got first up Frida Nyman.
Starting time.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm sorry my video just stopped working this very moment. I don't know what's wrong with my laptop, but I'm here to testify not for the canopy bill, but for a co-naming project.
Sure, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you. So I'm speaking on behalf of the Naiman family. My mother, Dr. Paula Naiman, who passed away in October of 2019, was a prominent pediatrician in the Pelham Parkway neighborhood of the Bronx. Her office, her primary care pediatric office, was located at 2110 Barnes Avenue, the block of Barnes Avenue between Brady and Leidig Avenue, which, for those of you who know that neighborhood, is a very bustling, both combination residential and commercial neighborhood. At the time, her office was in the bottom floor lobby apartment right next door to our synagogue, which was the Young Israel of Pelham Parkway. That building has now been turned into a public school. A project has been underway for several months now to rename that block Dr. Paula Naiman Way. This project has been supported, obviously, by the Naiman family, but also by Rabbi Barry Katz, who is a rabbi in the Riverdale section of the Bronx, who knew my mother very well when he had one of his first pulpits in Monroe, New York, where my mother at the time had retired, and she spent many of her summers there. So just a word about my mom. She was a Holocaust survivor. She came after surviving concentration camp, first to Brooklyn, and ultimately, and then to the Upper West Side on Riverside Drive. And then ultimately, when she finished her residency, they moved to the Pelham Parkway area, where she was on faculty both of the Albert Einstein College of Medicine and Jacobi Hospital. She and my dad were huge education proponents, and they
Time has
supported.
expired. Thank you.
Excuse me?
The time's expired, but you may wrap up and conclude.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that it would be, I think, a very important thing, both in support of immigrants, in support of proponents of education, and support of women in science and women as community leaders, to dedicate that block in her memory.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your testimony. We'll next call our next witness, and I just ask all the virtual witnesses too, because we've got another hearing starting here soon, to please do your best to stick to the time limit. Next, we have Faye Hill.
Starting time.
Faye Hill. Okay, we'll move to the next one. Silvera.
No, Faye Hill, this is Faye Hill. I sent in my written testimony, so you guys are supposed to have it. Thank you for recognizing me. I did send in my testimony. Okay, I'm on and off a Zoom call right now. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for submitting your testimony too. Next, we'll go to Silvera Siemens.
Starting time.
Hi. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Georgia Silvera Siemens, and I'm representing Washington Square Park Eco Projects. We are a member of the Force for All NYC Coalition, and I'm here in support of both Intro 1065 and Intro 1066. People, plants, wildlife, and infrastructure are the beneficiaries of trees living their lives. The science is clear, as we've heard. There are positive effects of trees on air quality, urban heat, hydrology, mood, neighboring, habitat, and more. Today, I would like to bring 3 needs to your attention. 1 is long-term sustainable funding for tree care. 2, managing trees in small to medium-sized landscape parks. And 3, trees at intersections and bus shelters. So 1, it is irresponsible and negligent to plant trees without an appropriate level of funding to care for trees throughout their lifespan. 2, the city's older small to medium-sized landscape parks have large older trees. Big trees provide the most benefits. They also might have needs, example structural pruning, that might have been overlooked because these parks don't have management plans. Also, who is planning for the replacement canopy as older trees decline and die? Small and medium-sized landscape parks are the places where many New Yorkers regularly experience local nearby nature. including the birds associated with these trees. And finally, in the summer, intersections and bus shelters can be intensely hot for people. Think of them as low-hanging fruit to cool people and infrastructure. Thank you for this opportunity to present my testimony.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Shravanti Kanikal.
Starting time.
Hello, I am presenting on behalf of Shravanti Kanekal. Good afternoon, Chair Krishnan and members of the council. My name is Victoria Sanders, and I'm testifying on behalf of the New York City Environmental Justice Alliance, or NEJA, which is a citywide membership network linking grassroots organizations from low-income communities of color in their struggle for environmental justice. As a major proponent of creative and multifaceted green infrastructure solutions for mitigating both flooding and heat risks in New York City's most environmentally burdened communities, NEJA supports both bills, 1065 and 1066. With scientists and researchers predicting warmer summer temperatures in the years ahead, we must look to more nature-based solutions that are equitably implemented to address the severe conditions that lay ahead. Each summer, an estimated 370 New Yorkers die prematurely because of extreme heat in NYC. Black New Yorkers are more likely to die from heat stress, with death rates 2 times higher than among white New Yorkers. In addition, Black and brown communities in New York have access to 33% less park space than residents in largely white neighborhoods. The disproportionate heat burden and risks that EJ and frontline communities experience due to the lack of trees and green space, increased pavement, and air pollution underscores the significance of and need for green infrastructure in these neighborhoods. While we are very supportive of the intention of Intro 1065, we believe that the efficacy can be strengthened by improving the language with a few key additions and caveats. Bill 1065 covers many key points in relation to the need for a citywide urban forest plan and reaching 30% canopy cover in NYC, but the critical component of equity for environmental justice groups is not currently reflected in the bill language. For example, an authentic equity analysis should prioritize expanding canopy cover, among other things, in environmental justice and Black and brown communities first.
Time expired. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we've got Wendy Brower. And again, just urge everyone to please stick to the time limit because we have another hearing starting soon and more witnesses to get through. Wendy Brower.
Starting time.
Wendy Brower, not on? Okay. Anastasia Galkowski.
Starting time.
Anastasia? Okay, we'll go to the next one. Natasha Siddhartha?
Starting time.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Natasha Siddhartha. I'm the Community Stewardship and Operations Director at Gowanus Canal Conservancy in Brooklyn. I oversee community stewardship and volunteer programs and empower local stakeholders in green space stewardship. We're a proud member of Forest for All New York City Coalition because we are committed to ensuring that our urban forest supports health, quality of life, resilience, and justice for all New Yorkers. And we're here to support both Intros 1065 and 1066. I want to echo all of the critical ecosystem services that the urban forest provides, particularly addressing the urban heat island effects, and also in particular absorbing stormwater. In Gowanus, over 365 million gallons of combined sewer overflow enters the canal per year, and trees help mitigate that pollution. I also want to underscore the importance of making sure that the urban forest survives to maturity. In particular, I want to echo the note around 80% of the canopy increase from existing street trees. And when these trees survive to maturity, these ecosystem benefits will grow exponentially. And trees will always need maintenance. as many others of my colleagues have mentioned. And although we work with volunteers and other small community organizations, we need that baseline funding from the city. And lastly, I do want to echo the amendments. Although we support the bills, that DPR must be supported and resourced when they're planning, and that there is a timeline for achieving that 30% cover, ideally 2035. Thank you to the City Council for your leadership in advancing this important legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Cirio Guarino.
Starting time.
Thousands of dollars upgrading tree pits in the city of New York. We removed the obsolete blocks, make tree pit fences from them, buy mulch, and turn the dirt over and add wood chips to the trees. One of the committee members asked, how do the trees die, or what is the major cause? There are two major causes of the trees dying: neglect and abuse. Neglect by lack of water. People will not come out and water the trees. Abuse by the schools of New York that chain their garbage bins to the trees on the street of New York so that they won't be stolen. So therefore the trees are being damaged by the chains. People who barbecue in the summer dump their ashes in the tree pits on the streets. They barbecue on the streets, they destroy the trees by barbecuing near them and dumping the hot coals into the tree pits. Forestry does not come to the Bronx to cut down trees. There are 20 to 30-year trees that are in the Marshall Park garden of the 52nd precinct that has not been down. 2 trees have been there for over 15 years to be cut, and the forestry will not come to cut them because they are not considered a danger. That is the problem. Forestry cuts trees only when they are a danger. Therefore, instead of coming to a neighborhood and removing all the dead trees at one time in one location and save time from traveling from one location to another, they can get more efficiently done. They also should have the tree pit stumps removed by the stump company to travel with the cutting of the trees. So therefore you do it in one full swap. Before you start planting new trees, you need to maintain the trees you have on the streets. There is no penalty on people who fill in the tree pits with blocks, concrete.
Thank you, Mr. Guarino. If we can just finish up because we're almost out of time. Thank you very much. And just going forward, for anyone else who's virtual, I'm going to give a 30-second warning when your time's about to expire, so you have some notice too, just because we have another hearing starting that should have started at 1 o'clock. Okay, next on virtual, we have Wendy Andringa.
Time starts now.
Yes, hello.
You may begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thanks to the committee for hearing these important bills and inviting testimony. My name is Wendy Andringa, and I'm the founder of Assemblage Landscape Architecture based in Brooklyn. I'm a coalition member of Forests for All New York City, and I'm a volunteer urban tree steward and citizen tree pruner. As many speakers have already noted, our stealth and silent urban forest goes underappreciated for all of the services and benefits it gives us, and these bills can help make change. For Intro 1065, may I please suggest taking these points into consideration? Ensure that New York City Parks is supported with time and funding at 1% for parks to do this work, and has a co-lead with broad jurisdictional authority. Establish a timeline for achieving 30% cover, ideally by 2035. Ensure the plan improves environmental justice, climate change, health, access to canopy, and workforce potential. Ensure the plan improves maintenance of New York City's existing valuable trees and accounts for the full life cycle of all trees. As a member of the Forests for All New York City Coalition, Assemblage supports both bills, and we're committed to ensuring this important legislation becomes law. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next, we have Catherine Sullivan.
Time starts now.
Catherine Sullivan. All right, we'll move to, next we have Rami Danawi.
Time starts now.
Rami Danawi.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Rami Danawi, and I'm the Environmental Justice Campaign and Policy Manager at El Puente, a community-based organization working at the nexus of environmental justice, social justice, youth development, and the self-determination of all peoples. And we've been doing it now for over 4 decades. Thank you for giving us the time to be here and to testify on these bills. We are a proud member of Forest for All Coalition, a coalition of over 90 organizations in the city that came together, aligned to actively and effectively call for an equitable and just implementation of an urban forest that counters our concrete jungle and the racist infrastructure that has plagued our communities and caused extreme heat, stormwater flooding, and hazardous air quality. We thank you for the leadership of this body in advancing these pieces of legislation, not only to grow and expand our tree canopy, but to do so with oversight mechanisms to ensure that it is done in an equitable and just fashion. This is in line with the NYC Urban Forest Agenda developed by our coalition in the recent years. With these bills, the city's trees will be guided by a master plan and will be folded into long-term consideration and sustainability efforts. This is a step in the right direction, but it is definitely not a panacea. We need to ensure that the right agency, namely Department of Parks, receive the necessary support and funding to plan and execute its mandate in the proposed bill. Furthermore, to stay true to the spirit of accountability intended in these bills, there needs to be a timeline for achieving the 30% canopy, ideally 2035. I will close with this reminder. There's no sustainability without environmental justice. There's no environmental justice without the historically disadvantaged communities. And there's no equity without accountability. And so we need to center those that have been harmed by the policies historically. And thank you for the time and opportunity.
Thank you so much, and thank you to El Puente, a former client of mine, for your great work for environmental justice in our city. Next up, we have Len Maniaci.
Starting time.
I want to thank the Council Committee and Committee President Krishnan, my council member, for considering this legislation. I'm Len Maniaci, a board member of the Jackson Heights Beautification Group. We're a civic, arts, and environmental nonprofit in Queens, now in its 35th year. JHBG is a founding member of the Forest for All NYC Coalition and fully support the urban forest agenda goal of at least a 30% tree canopy by 2035. The all-volunteer JHBG's Tree LC team is the most active tree stewardship group in our city since 2021. JHBG supports Intro Bills 1065 and 1066 with additions concerning environmental justice. We endorse the comments you've heard today, including the many environmental benefits that come from trees in the city and how those benefits have not been parceled out equitably. I want to add that trees are Mother Nature's air conditioners, keeping our city habitable in the face of global warming. All New Yorkers, especially children, deserve to fall under the spell of the natural world every day. Nature should be available too outside of parks and the gardens of our leafier neighborhoods, in bits and pieces that we can see every day, outside our doors, on the way to the store, school, or subway. If you look for nature, you will see bees and butterflies lured by native flowers to tree beds. Just out of sight, under a thin layer of soil, are earthworms, pillbugs, and many other creatures. It's a mini wildlife refuge. Then there are the trees themselves, perhaps the most crucial part of nature in our city. They're the biggest organisms on land, practically ecosystems unto themselves. They're home to lichens, caterpillars, a variety of bugs, and bigger critters. I have a little homework assignment for our council members and their staffs. It's not painful and might even be fun. On your way home to school, on your way home today,
Time's
look
expired.
for
Thank you.
let me just finish up here, where it is and where it isn't. Then imagine what it would mean to New Yorkers to live in a city that is more bountiful in its green space. If we give it a chance, nature will flourish here. and we will be happier and healthier for it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Len. Thank you for your great work in Jackson Heights and the Jackson Heights Beautification Group for taking care of the trees of our community. Next up, we have Melissa Elstein.
Starting time.
Hello, my name is Melissa Elstein. I'm with the West 80s Neighborhood Association, as well as Love Your Street Tree Day. I want to thank the New York City Council, the Committee on Parks and Recreation, Chair Krishnan, as well as my council member, Gail Brewer, and Eric Botcher as well for the introduction of these bills, which we support. As part of the West 80s Neighborhood Association, we started Love Your Street Tree Day, a large coalition in order to host large community events that focus on proper tree stewardship, including demonstrations. We educate on street tree issues and benefits, and we provide free tree care tools and our double-sided Love Your Tree Day sign and collapsible watering buckets. We also have on our website and YouTube channel instructions on how to properly take care of trees. We realized after the completion of the Million Trees Plan started under Mayor Bloomberg, just planting trees was not sufficient. These expensive new trees needed proper care in order to survive often harsh New York City conditions, such as rat burrows, compacted soil, items girdling the trunks, dog waste, cigarette butts, garbage, lack of tree guards, or improper tree guards. Our logo even has trees, and this was even before the Million Trees Initiative. So we support these bills, and we also urge to realize the culmination of the 30% tree canopy by 2035. We also thank Mayor Adams and his administration for the inclusion of that tree canopy in the updated Plan NYC. I would also like to request that there be included some kind of pollinator-friendly plan as well. Maybe not in these bills, but think about that in the future, because I'm also part of the New York City Pollinator Working Group Coalition. So I'll leave it at that. All the benefits of the street trees have already been discussed many times, and I'll end my statement early. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your work and testimony. Next up, we have Justin Green.
Starting time.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair Krishnan, for having us. Big Reuse is an environmental nonprofit and a member of Forest for All. I'm really excited and support 1066, 1065, and reiterate everything else that people have talked about. I want to talk about soil. None of the trees and the benefits from the trees can happen without quality soil, and that's what Big Reuse does. We combat climate change through community-based initiatives. One of our biggest initiatives is our community-based composting systems in Long Island City and Gowanus. We've utilized those systems to partner with 9 council members to apply compost to street trees in 9 different districts, and are expanding our work to other districts to apply compost. The soil around trees is totally key to their survival. Adding compost adds microbes, nutrients, organic matter. It improves soil structure, enhances nutrient availability, increases water retention. It's really key to consider what's going to happen to all the leaf and yard waste that comes from the trees we're planting. And the solution is right in front of us. It's community composting. So we'd love to connect with your office, Chair Krishnan, to talk about our community composting site in Long Island City and retaining that and keeping on our work with parks in Western Queens. Thank you for allowing us to testify in support of these bills.
Sure, happy to talk. And thank you so much for your testimony and for your work. Next, we have Kevin O'Keefe.
Starting time.
Thank you, Chair Krishnan. Yes, I'm Kevin O'Keefe, and I'm here in my role as founder of the St. Martin Park Conservancy in Manhattan. First, thank you to the groups and individuals who are looking to make a strong urban forest master plan a reality. Now, some of the concerns that we have been nicely addressed today, but another specific concern was touched on about 5 speakers ago for a few seconds, but we believe has been under-discussed today. It may sound simple, but it's crucial, and that's the need to adequately budget for the watering of trees. My Conservancy colleagues and I have been volunteering to properly help meet this need, and we've seen up close how last year's drought reality hurt many new city plantings. underwatering was a culprit, for sure. We recently read a drought-related report from the U.S. Forest Service conducted last year. It surveyed tree canopy across California. The report found about 2.6 million acres of dead trees, representing some 36.3 million dead trees in that state. Now, of course, climate change is making the need for more water significant. Our warmer temperatures reduce surface water and dries out the soil and vegetation. As we know, trees in their first 3 to 5 years need a lot of water, but even mature trees' reliance on groundwater needs help during droughts. Droughts, and I should say mega droughts, response and relevant monitoring data should be an integral part of any urban forest master plan. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next is Julia Ann Ashcraft.
Starting time.
Hello, I am Julian Ashcraft. As a resident of Manhattan, I respectfully request that 1065 be amended to remove the phrase light detection and ranging from the text and remove the word LIDAR from the summary. FAA Advisory Circular 2183 states that LIDAR uses laser to perform ranging by measuring the reflected return of a projected laser beam. Eye hazard, LIDAR lasers can be especially hazardous because the beam is invisible and there is no blink reflex reaction to protect the eye, so eye exposure may initially go undetected. Exposure to lasers operation within the near infrared spectrum can cause retinal eye damage. Laser equipment that operates in the far infrared spectrums can damage the cornea, lens, or both. LIDAR deploys lasers from airplanes, helicopters, or drones, all of which make noise, and people naturally look towards the source of noise, so their eyes would be hit by invisible lasers, hazardous lasers. Therefore, the inclusion of LIDAR in Intro 1065 recklessly endangers millions of people and animals in New York City. Not only can LIDAR lasers permanently blind people, LIDAR also heats up skin, penetrates human skulls and brains, and induces alpha brain waves, making them drowsy. LIDAR also penetrates glass, invading the privacy of people in dark rooms. I do not consent to this hazardous procedure and violation of the Fourth Amendment. Instead of LIDAR, please consider Google Street View as a means of gathering visual data about trees, including tree size and leaf and tree bed condition. Google Maps Street View can also document plants in interior spaces, providing more complete documentation of plants in New York City. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next is Ali Ryan.
Starting time.
Hello. The smoke winds of Canadian forest fires reminded me once again how important it is to protect our trees. It has been hard to breathe outdoors as well as indoors. In fact, when I visited a library last Wednesday, a librarian abruptly announced that the library was closing in 10 minutes due to the poor air quality. We are called upon to stand with the trees because they give us clean air to breathe. Recently, an Eastside Coastal Resiliency representative admitted at an ESCR Community Advisory Group public meeting that the project leaders don't know when the infill will settle and that the work is behind schedule and missing promised benchmarks. In conjunction, some neighboring Jacob Rees houses residents are still experiencing water problems, and the New York State is now preparing to remediate the toxic contaminated soil on their property. Meanwhile, one neighborhood north, Stuytown, has quickly received an 8-foot seawall running along the noisy and polluting FDR that accomplishes the exact same task with a cheaper price tag. In fact, noise-suppressing wall along the FDR would have made the East River Park and its forest qualities even nicer if any common sense had prevailed. I believe we have an opening to save a park in an environmental justice area. Please hold an oversight hearing and consider reintroducing the city and the community-led, less destructive flood prevention plan to preserve the remaining 505 84-year-old healthy trees standing above Houston Street, which is also
Time is
a
expired.
third
Thank you.
of East River Park itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And our last witness is Harriet Hirschhorn.
Hi, I'm in a very windy place. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I am on the same page as Ali Ryan. I just want to say that New York City is responsible for having destroyed 700 mature, healthy trees over the last 2 years in East River Park and intends to destroy another 504 of them. My number's slightly different than Ali's because I watched them destroy the 505th tree. All I really want to say is that if we're serious about, having a decent tree canopy, it's more important to preserve the one we've got and conserve it than it is to expand it, although expanding it is a great idea, and I'm obviously for both of these bills. I just feel like it's really important to point out to all of you on the city council that you can do something to stop this tree massacre. And it's been horrendous for the people who live on the Lower East Side. It's traumatic to watch construction workers chop down and mulch 80-year-old healthy oak trees which are a keystone species because they harbor so much habitat. It's devastating. And below all of this tree destruction, there are different kinds of flood barriers already erected, and above the tree destruction, they've already finished with the gates, the flood gates. So I don't understand why the only place where there's a healthy tree canopy is the only place where you can't put in place a different solution to protecting us from floods.
Thank you very much for your testimony. That concludes all of our public testimony. I just want to thank everyone from all the advocates who are here, to the Parks Department, and everyone for their great questions, passion, and care for our trees, and look forward to working together to get to our tree canopy coverage of 30% by 2035. Thank you so much, everyone.